Captain's Log, June 2nd, 2836. After 27 years of war between the Degen Coomers and the Sainthood Slayers, a new hope arises. As the battlefield lay weaponized, locked and loaded for destruction, negotiations for a peace treaty are in transition. The moderator has arrived at Station 42. Can this war be ended? Will the Coomers and Slayers find a middle ground?
Abort mission. I repeat, abort mission. Negotiation failure. Abort mission.
Heavy bogey 6 plus, low orbit over grid 15-2.
No joy, Yashin-Mod.
Then go to your window and look up their biggest fracking asteroid.
Copy, Yashin-Mod. Still blind. Got some kind of system-wide crash in the defense grid.
Go on, track yourself right goddamn now, because we got Boku inbound, and they're not carrying flow.
Wait one, Yashin-Mod.
We don't have one.
And good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to the Raging Tomato. I am Sarah, bringing to you live another Moderator Monday. I have these fine gentlemen, Pentuple, a Grid One Motorsports, the Unreasonable Man, Classy Neurotic, and Red Yalt from Red Yalt's Notebook, all going to debate the question of, has DOGE fulfilled its promise? I'm going to leave it up to you, Pentuple, to kick off with your opening statement, please.
All right. Well, thank you for having me. And that intro was one of the coolest things I've seen in this creating space for a while. So kudos to you. That was awesome.
Thank you.
I answer yes. I think DOGE has fulfilled its promise, is fulfilling its promise, however you want to phrase it. I think they're doing what we desired for them to do. I break this down into sort of 3 target goals for DOGE. One is to uncover.
Nope, you muted yourself. Left off at 3 something. There you go. Nope, it's still not coming through.
Sorry about that. Hopefully we're
That's
back.
okay. We got you.
So for me, it breaks down into 3 main goals for DOGE. One is to uncover waste, fraud, and abuse. The second is to modernize our computer systems in the government. And the third is to improve the auditability of our government payment systems. I think regarding waste, fraud, and abuse, a lot of fraud by definition is going to look good on paper and be hard to find and uncover. And I think a lot of the fraud in the past will ultimately have been gotten away with. I don't know that we're going to be able to uncover all of it. And part of that is because our audits hit dead ends. We had no payment contact requirements, no payment code requirements. And these are the types of things that Elon has implemented with DOGE that will help us going forward, regardless of what we can do retroactively, improve our ability to reduce waste in government spending. And it's ultimately about modernizing our systems. That's why I think it's timely, and it's a good opportunity for us to do that. One of the things Trump did was mandate use of the electronic funds transfers instead of paper checks. We had $1.2 billion worth annually of paper check fraud and just lost checks. So this is just one of those ways that we're optimizing and improving and modernizing our government system and giving the Treasury access to this data so that they can actually see where the money's going. And this is, in some ways, a lot of people see it as a retroactive thing to go back and see where the money has gone. But it's also about moving forward and establishing systems that will work for the long term.
Thank you, Pentuple, and Grid to you.
Yeah, it was a solid opening. Thank you, Sarah, for hosting this. I think it's going to be pretty lively once we get rolling. I do agree that DOGE has lived up to its promise, and let's make sure that we understand that DOGE's scope was very simple: to identify the waste, slash the fraud, dismantle the inefficiency, and modernize operations without growing government, right, or increasing spending. Both of those things are a burden to the American taxpayer, and nobody wants that. Its responsibility was not to make bureaucrats comfortable. It was not to make government work for the people, or pardon me, it was to make the government work for the people again and not vice versa. It had clear limitations in which it had executive authority only, no new taxes, no bloated programs, no blank checks. There was strict oversight and limited engagement. Even Elon Musk's service was capped at 130 days and by choice. And in that lane, you can't deny that DOGE delivered on all of that. We'll get into the specifics, I'm sure. I'm positive that the rhetoric that our opposition is going to put out is going to be familiar, and we're prepared for it. So let's get into it.
Thank you so much. Classy Neurotic to you.
Hey, it's Classy right here. So the idea of having a government that is efficient but also free of corruption, fraud, and waste is an objective that both the left and the right can agree on. However, I believe that the Department of Government Efficiency, DOGE, has not fulfilled that goal in that regard. Trump said back in November 2024 that the purpose of DOGE is to drive out the massive waste and fraud which exists in our annual $6.5 trillion of government spending. Musk originally said he was going to cut $2 trillion, then he said he was going to cut $1 trillion, now 150 billion, which is less than 10% of what he originally said. It seems that the goalpost has shifted dramatically, and DOGE not only falls short of their original goals, but has created more problems than ever. DOGE has disrupted normal government functions and laid off of hundreds of employees in various agencies like the VA, Department of Education, and briefly our nuclear arms program, just to skin off $1 of our massive budget. Elon Musk and his team of unqualified teenagers have access to personal data of millions of Americans. Everything from tax information to your mother's maiden name can be in the fingertip of the one who calls himself Big Balls. We're supposed to believe that DOGE's website accurately tracks waste and sought out by Musk. However, time and time again, DOGE has misrepresented their savings. So, in fact, one of the savings was a $1.9 billion from the Treasury, which was actually done under Biden. The so-called social deception program of routers that they also claim to rise a secret government project to control the press. It's actually just a cybersecurity program that started under Trump's first term and ended under Biden. These examples are the many misrepresented savings to come out of DOGE. How are we supposed to create a transparent government when the agency meant to improve that is not even transparent? And now they're talking about consolidating our federal data under one system to be more efficient. It is true that the federal government operates in disconnected departments of the federal government, but that's for a reason. We have the 1974 Piracy Act and other federal laws that prioritize privacy over efficiency. Remind you, Trump said to drive this kind of drastic change, the Department of Government Efficiency will provide advice and guidance from outside the government, will partner with the White House and office management budget to drive out large-scale structural reform and create an entrepreneurial approach to government never seen before. Nowhere does it imply that the world's richest man will have unfettered access to our personal data, let alone the ability to shut down government agencies. In a recent poll, 2/3 of Americans have concerns that Elon Musk's access to our personal data. In conclusion, fraud is defined as wrongful criminal deception intended to result in financial personal gain. Well, Musk lied about his savings, and he used his special government employee powers while his companies like Tesla, SpaceX, and Starlink happened to be contracted by the federal government. The only fraud uncovered by Elon Musk is his own. Thank you.
Thank you, Classy. Renyal, to you.
Yeah. So I think the question of if DOGE is fulfilling its promise is pretty easy to answer because Musk pledged to cut $2 trillion in federal spending, and he is nowhere near this. Even the total that he walked back to, he's not even close to in verifiable grants. I think the lack of transparency around DOGE has been kind of shocking by the fact that we didn't know who headed DOGE until February 26th. There's a lot of concerns that I hope that we can get into.
Perfect. Thank you. Gentlemen, the floor is open.
Yeah, so I think you both commented on the $2 trillion or $3 trillion savings thing. So it's an interesting thing that you guys tend to want to, on the folks on the left, I'm using you guys specifically because you said it. It's interesting because if extrapolated out, it's not like he saved you $3 trillion in cash, right? But they did save was like 200 billion or something like that in cash, which that's not insignificant. However, what they did do is if the programs that they cut hadn't been ended, they would have gone. It would have reached $3 trillion. So there is $3 trillion saved. Think of it this way: if you go out and you purchase a shitty car, a piece of shit, but you spend $60,000 on it, you get it home, and it's pile of crap. And you go to the Consumer Protection Agency or you go to your bank and say, "Hey, this thing's a piece of crap. I want to unwind this deal." And that is exactly what Elon has done and his team at DOGE. I mean, not Elon personally, Elon's team at DOGE. That's exactly what he's done. Is he's unwound those bad deals that we made. You know, $100 billion to go to some, nothing program out in Afghanistan that was verifiable, didn't exist, right? You guys know about that, right? I mean, you did do some research before you came into this, correct? Because if you don't know about these things, well, I'll be happy to educate you. And at the end of the night, I hope that you've learned something, because I think you're really wrong here. I think you're on the wrong side. And I think you're good young men that just need to see things from a different point of view. Both of you admitted that efficiency is something that you strive for, that something to be aimed for, and yet neither one of you actually made a good argument for DOGE failing. And if you could, I'd like you to walk me through how, if the programs that Elon has done and the cuts that he's made, by the way, it wasn't a few thousand employees, a few hundred employees, it was 260,000 dead weight government officials, jobs were eliminated.
Yeah, sure. So I mean, like in verifiable grants, I mean the number that we have is around
$100,000 a year.
Hold on, let him respond.
260,000 employees eliminated is a lot of money saved. That goes in, and that's not government money. That's my money. That's been Tupple's money. That's Sarah's money, and that's your money.
Are you gonna let him respond?
I'm sorry. I got him my horse. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I mean, so like in verifiable grants, we have about 12 billion proven. The like 160 billion, I don't think has been backed up by almost anybody. When it comes to like the trillions being saved in the long run, if that was the way that DOGE was looking at it, then they probably wouldn't have walked back the number as many times as they did. They would be actually standing by the 2 trillion number, but even Elon Musk and all of the goons are not standing by that number. I agree that we should be rooting out fraud, waste, and abuse. That's why I like the Office of the Inspector General. But Donald Trump ended up firing a bunch of the inspector generals that found about, 90 billion in 2023 through audits and through lawsuits of fraudsters. I feel like if we were actually interested in promoting government efficiency, we would probably be investing in the already established thing that has statutory authority beyond an executive order that has already proven to save this much money. That's returning, 26-1 on our investment.
That's an interesting point. I like where your head's at, but you're a little off, and here's why. So pre Donald Trump, between 2000 and 2020, pre DOGE, right? The U.S. Inspector General investigated USAID multiple times for fraud and abuse, and they found billions of dollars wasted on mismanaged projects, and nothing ever happened. There was nobody fired. There was no projects ended. Nothing happened. And just a couple of examples. In 2016, an audit found that $210 million meant for Afghan health clinics was unaccounted for. That means they didn't know where it went. It didn't go to Afghanistan. It just disappeared from the government pocket. They were literally, you have people at USAID, for example, picking the government's pocket. It was found in 2016 and nobody was fired. So this is why DOGE succeeds. And what you're talking about is the reason those people got fired. That's the reason the IG's office had had to be downsized, and those people had to go away.
I mean, that's just incorrect. I mean, like the HHS
That's
one.
not incorrect.
Well,
That's
let me
in
respond,
USAID's
please.
Hold
own
on.
report in 2016.
Hold on. Go ahead, Rinya.
So the idea that there was no criminal enforcement by the OIGs is just like not true. Like the HHS.
Okay,
one
then point
found,
me
like,
to an
1.
example, because I can point you to examples where
I'll
found
do that if
something
I
and they
can
did
get a
nothing
sentence
about
out.
it. I'm
I'll do
giving
that.
you an
Settle
example.
down. Let Rinyold finish the statement.
Yeah, so I mean the HHS OIG report resulted in 1.5 thousand criminal and civil enforcement actions. The breakdown of the 2023 fiscal year resulted in $10.9 billion just in lawsuits. I don't know if you necessarily need to be suing people in order to. Who got fired? I like what?
I'm picking on USAID because that's Trump went in and Trump and Elon went in and basically demolished the organization because it was so bad. It was investigated multiple times by by the Inspector General, by congressional committee, and nobody ever got fired. Why is that? I'm asking you to ask why, when we have verifiable proof that these people were stealing money.
Why is it that they fired the HHS one then? If it was just for
USAID's not HHS.
Trump,
you're shifting away from what I asked, the question I specifically asked you.
Yeah, because the government isn't just USAID. If
correct,
there wasn't, why would Trump fire the HHS Inspector General?
He did fire that Inspector General when Elon went in and found all of the signs that there was corruption. Elon, by the way, didn't fire anybody. I misspoke there. The president's office and the Secretary of State fired them because that's what they do. That's how that works. I have to keep bringing it back because I'm using USAID as a very specific example because it was investigated multiple times by the very people you're defending, and they never fired anybody.
I mean, I don't have the particular data on the OIG in regard to the USAID, but I mean, USAID isn't the entire federal government. If we're talking about auditing the entire federal government, we should probably talk about the results.
They're not
from the
finished
OIGs
with the audit of the entire federal government. They're still working on it.
Well, the OIGs had, like, in fiscal year 2023, found $82 billion. That's more than the verifiable grants from DOGE had cut. And that's also not taking into account all of the potential costs that DOGE is bringing us, like gutting the IRS, which reduces our ability to collect taxes, or the paying the employees for administrative leave.
You seriously think that decreasing the number of IRS agents reduces our ability to collect taxes? You firmly believe that you're going to die on that hill?
Probably necessarily, yeah.
Okay, well, that's insane.
Well, how is reducing the
We're gonna have less people having the ability to sort out fraud and waste and be able to accurately,
because IRS doesn't find fraud and waste. That's not their job.
But their abilities to collect taxes, though. There's less people who can collect taxes.
Who collects taxes? We do it by computer. That's absurd.
Who runs the computers?
Can I jump in here?
Yeah, go ahead, Pintel. I'm sorry.
We all agreed that early on that we all want the government to be efficient, reduce fraud, reduce waste, right? Like that's sort of an easy meat we can do. Mm-hmm. Do we also both stipulate to the fact that the government has massive issues with fraud and waste? Because one of the things I think we need to recognize here is that we're not introducing DOGE into a healthy system. Even if we found no evidence of fraud retroactively, that doesn't mean that it's not there. And it also doesn't mean that there's not a lot of value in modernizing and improving these systems to prevent it in the future, which I think is a lot of what DOGE is doing. I think it's likely that a lot of fraud that's been committed looks good on paper. That's how you get away with fraud. You got to make it look really good on paper. And so I think a lot of the times this fraud that's happened in the past, we're just not going to be able to fully uncover it. And that's not like a failure of DOGE that they're not able to uncover all of the fraud. So I guess I want to ask you guys, to what level, if you agree with the stipulation that our government has issues with fraud and waste, perhaps you don't, but if you do, to what level do you think it's at? Because it's certainly going to be more than whatever Elon has found, presuming that he, isn't going to find 100% of the fraud. Where do you guys kind of fall on that question?
But that's the thing. He hasn't found anything. Fraud is a specific legal definition that has to do with using deception of misappropriation of fraud, though. The problem is that DOGE doesn't have the capacity to look for fraud because that is something that has to be done through the courts. When Vivek Ramaswamy was originally supposed to be part of DOGE, he actually wanted to use the courts to seek out fraud. So like at this current time, they don't even have the ability to seek out fraud because that would have to be decided by the courts.
I
hear you.
There hasn't
But
been
I'm
any
asking you-
indictments and there hasn't been any convictions
that's
and
not-
the result of DOGE.
But that doesn't mean that, like, if somebody commits murder just because they haven't been charged, it doesn't mean you can't answer the question, do we think this person committed murder? So I'm asking you, do you think that the government has engaged in massive waste or fraud or just in general spending abuse? And how big do you think that scale is? Because maybe that's where our disconnect is.
Sure, but it's going to be like necessarily hard to quantify how much fraud there is in the federal government by nature of it being fraud. But I mean, if we have a person in this hypothetical that's responsible for finding murders, and a murder took place and he didn't find it, then that probably means that the person who's responsible for finding the murders isn't fulfilling the promise of finding murders.
The analogy doesn't hold up very well. Like I'll admit, it's not a perfect analogy, but I guess I was just more pointing out the idea that just because we haven't found or prosecuted fraud or waste, I don't think that convinces anyone that the government isn't engaging in it.
But to our point before, though, they have found fraud in the systems we already have, the Office of Inspector Generals. We have had convictions and civil actions lawsuits already conducted by the Inspector General. It's not all of it, but it's not nothing. But for DOGE, it's zero.
Yeah, and it's more effective than DOGE in
hold on,
finding it.
It does.
That's where our disconnect.
There's no legal
massive issue with waste and fraud.
Look, just because there's no legal necessity to go to court to determine fraud. Fraud is simply, you said, for example, you said you spent $20 million on to teach baboons something in Uganda, and
that's not fraud. That would be waste.
Spent, and we don't know where it went. It's obviously in some politician's pocket somewhere. It disappeared into the neither. Obviously, that's fraud, and that doesn't require a court to determine.
Wait, real quick.
No, fraud is deception. Waste is arbitrary.
Deception is fraud.
If it doesn't,
who decides what is fraud? The courts.
No, that's incorrect.
If it doesn't require a court, then like what happens to that fraud? Who determines it? Are we just like trusting the richest person in the world to determine what is fraud?
As a business owner, when I found employees committing fraud, I fired them. I didn't take them to court. There was no point.
Does DOGE have the ability to fire officers?
Actually, they don't. The president does it through the Secretary of State.
Okay. So if we agree that DOGE isn't firing the people committing the fraud, what is it doing to fix the fraud?
Well, that's where I would get and argue that what we're talking about is updating these payment systems, updating the computers and the networking between our federal branches and with the Treasury, and establishing things like payment, like point of contacts for every payment going out, payment codes for everything going out. It just gives us more oversight over our spending. So even if we didn't find a single dime of waste, fraud, and abuse, DOGE is fulfilling a purpose in modernizing and improving our government payment systems. That's what we're arguing.
Is it concerning to you that DOGE is then claiming that they're finding all of this fraud, waste, and abuse, but none of that is even fact checkable because they're like leaving out details purposefully so nobody can fact check the grants that they're claiming?
Well, if it's not fact checkable, then you don't have evidence it's not true or not accurate numbers.
Well, I mean, it's not verifiable.
They're not making these numbers up. These numbers are already in the books. They're not
verifiable.
Made up numbers. No, but they have made up numbers before, like the 8 billion. They're supposedly, they say from ICE was actually like 8 million, of which only 2.5 million was already spent.
Which, I mean, you can claim as a clerical error, and it may have been. Like, we don't necessarily need to say that DOGE is lying about what they're canceling, but it also doesn't mean that it's an accurate representation of what it's canceling, and it also doesn't mean that any of it's verifiable.
What I hear from you guys is they only saved us $150 billion in cash today,
18.
possibly $3 trillion over the next 10 years or whatever.
No.
But I'm really mad that they saved us that money. I'm really mad that they found that fraud, waste, and abuse.
You're shadow boxing. That's not what we're claiming at all. We're saying that this
that I didn't know I had.
Hold on.
Angry about it.
All right, go ahead, Rinyald.
Yeah, that's not the claim at all. Like at the very beginning, both of us clarified that we are on board with finding fraud, waste, and abuse. We're just arguing that DOGE isn't effective in doing it, and none of its findings have been verifiable, like the OIG office has been, and like the ones that Trump fired.
But the IG's office has not been effective because very few people
saved more money than DOGE.
Wait, no,
Gave
there.
more
I
money than Doge.
just said that there were
That's true.
hundreds of over 1,000 convictions.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, there
That
was
there
like
were hundreds of civil action lawsuits. Sorry, let me
1.5 thousand
continue.
just from the HHS.
1.5 thousand. They
Just from the HHS.
1.5. All right. Here we go. This is how effective the IG was, right?
Mhm.
So they literally. Hold on, I gotta find. My notes are really messed up. I'm sorry, guys. I'm not a very good note taker. I am not a professional note taker at all. And
That's okay, but like
know-
I'm just saying from my source, I have 3,675 criminal prosecutions, 1,015 civil actions from last year from the inspector generals. I mean, that's a lot.
Okay,
How much did that add
were
up?
they the head of the offices that were actually doing the most damage? I get. All right. Hold. All right. Let me back up. I'm just going to do something. Because I'm not going to look through all my shit right here. Let me ask you something. So if you were to find out, okay, through an investigation, that the VA hospital was paying for sex orgies, would you be okay with firing that entire staff?
Well, I would like there to be an investigation first. I mean, I want to know which staff was actually involved in it and which staff is a victim of it, though.
Okay.
I don't want to fire someone that was actually a victim. I want to know who is entitled to a certain payment, who is liable.
I would also probably add that the person that I would trust to investigate that wouldn't just be like the richest person on earth that financed my campaign, or somebody with like special interests as a result from the way that this is running.
But great. Hold on. To your point, though, wouldn't you want to make sure that the victims are compensated?
Hold
right?
on.
And that
Hold
people
on.
receive-
No, back up. I'm not going to let that one slide. Let me get this straight. So rich people can't work for the government. Is that what you're saying?
No, I'm saying the richest
rich,
person in the world probably isn't with special interest in the way that
the government.
No, I'm saying
it
that the
makes
richest
sense
person.
why Elon's involved
Hold
here.
on.
To be
Hold
fair.
I'm saying that the richest person in the world with special interest of how grants are calculated probably isn't the best person with like no background in auditing government or government at all. I think probably isn't the most responsible person to go in and cut things with a sledgehammer.
So when I hire people, so like when I take a contract to weld shit together, do you think I'm out there welding it?
Probably not.
Do you think I hire the best fucking welder I can find to weld it?
Potentially.
Okay, then that's what then now you've answered why they get Elon, right?
Why? Because he's the richest person on the
I'll
earth.
answer this actually. I think I can answer why we choose Elon here. Elon is most well known and very well known for developing XAI. He has Twitter. He has a very strong expertise in computer systems and computer networks. He is a data guy. He is very good with numbers. These are the types of things that make these are the types of things that our government payment systems are needing: is updated computer systems, a better network. I think it makes sense that, given his skill set, that he comes in for that role. That's why I think that the data that he collects through Doge, we're kind of personifying Doge as Elon, when reality it's just he's figuring out how to collect the data and providing it to these heads of departments who make the obvious decisions that you would make with this data.
And then he's
all
gone,
about
right? As
setting
soon
up
as he
that
sets that
system for
system
the
up, he's
future.
out.
Hold on, let him finish.
Real quick,
Well, that was it. That was it. It's all about setting up these systems for the future. I would love to find waste, fraud, and abuse retroactively. I think a lot of it maybe isn't going to be found. I know I've said that a couple times, but this isn't a failure to not catch all of the fraud and waste that we've experienced. The purpose of this department right now is to update our computer systems and networks in our government so that we can optimize and improve the efficiency of our payment systems. There is a lot of massive waste and fraud and abuse. I think that's where we maybe disagree. You guys don't see it as big of an issue, where for us it's almost an existential issue.
I mean, it's obviously an issue, but that doesn't mean that I want any given person to be the person to fix it. And I would say that to your point, I mean, if he was just responsible for updating computer systems, that's fine. If that was the only pledge that Doge made, that's fine. But a big campaign of why people thought Doge was so popular was because they ran on finding retroactive fraud, which is not verifiable, which Elon doesn't have history in doing. He's not familiar with how the government works.
Not true. That's not true. He came in and cleaned up Tesla. Tesla was full of waste. It
Yeah,
was right.
Tesla's
It
not
was
the federal-
subsidized by Al
Tesla's not the
Gore,
federal
and they
government.
literally got rid of all of the garbage and made it a successful company.
Tesla just
What do
doesn't
you
work
mean
the
it
same way as a.
But
Tesla
but
doesn't
Greg,
work the same way
let
as
me
the federal
ask you
government.
something.
Hold
Let
on,
me ask
hold
you
on.
something. Would you say that the goal of a business is to make profit, right?
Are you gonna try the goal of government is not to make profit? Are you gonna go
That
there?
is kind of what I'm trying to say. That they don't.
I actually do believe that a government should have a surplus of money. My government in Tennessee, my local government runs at about a $600,000 a year budget surplus. And that money is used for various projects that crop up throughout the year. As a matter of fact, Tennessee is so good at not having fraud, waste, and abuse that we refused Department of Education funds this year. Our government did. Our governor did, and he came under fire for it. And eventually, I believe he was forced to take it, but they had to remove the strings that were attached to that money from the DOE. So, just looking at my local example, yeah, I think that I do think that the government ought to operate at a surplus and not a deficit budget. And this is what we're actually talking about. And that would be the equivalent to a business generating profit, right? That's a surplus. So that's a long-winded way of saying, yeah, absolutely.
I'll take a softer stance on that for you guys to respond to. I'm not I've heard this before where people say, the government's not a business, it's not operating for profit. And I agree with that, but that doesn't mean that our government can ignore sustainability. You know what I mean? It needs to be self-sufficient. It doesn't need to necessarily run a profit. Like, not every department has to run a profit. I get that. But when you have departments and departments after departments that are losing money and it's eating at the budget and we can't sustain that, sustainability, I mean, by definition, is required for any system. So, it's not about making a profit. I would just say it's about that sustainability.
Yeah, I agree. And I'm sure that I can't imagine that Classy would disagree with that either. But I mean, we have a tested method of finding, auditing the government, finding fraud, finding waste, and prosecuting it. And it was the Office of the Inspector General. Trump ended up firing a bunch of those inspector generals and replaced it with DOGE, who keeps claiming exorbitant amounts of fraud that aren't verifiable at all.
Well, is that system good enough if we can't find any of this fraud? I think I would argue that there is definitely fraud that people are getting away with. Mm-hmm. And so this is kind of like saying, oh, we have a tested process for this. It feels like we should make the argument that this tested process you're describing failed in its mission. And we have to figure out how to actually accomplish the goal that is not being met by that process. Because I would argue there's massive waste, there's massive fraud. And part of the problem is that it's done in a way where it's not necessarily so obvious. It's just not tracked. We don't have we reach in dead ends and audits over and over, and we can't actually, who knows, maybe it's fraud. We'll never be able to prosecute it. So I guess it's not.
So if you want to argue you want to argue that, that's fine. And I could probably agree. And there are even some things that DOGE allegedly wants to do that I'd probably agree with, like having a better tracking method for certain payments. That's fine. But the problem that I'm coming in with is that a lot of the campaign leading up to Donald Trump's election surrounding DOGE was on finding retroactive fraud. If you want to argue that the Office of the Inspector General wasn't effective in doing it, that's fine. But I mean, what we're looking at right now is that DOGE is far less effective in doing it, and it's actually probably going to end up costing us a lot of money.
I think you're cherry picking data, and I think I have to disagree with you. Literally, the Inspector General has overseen U.S. aid for 20 plus years, and the amount of corruption in that one agency was crazy.
I don't understand how you can accuse me of cherry picking and then you focus just on U.S. aid and not the overall effect of the Office of the Inspector General.
Right, because the U.S. Inspector General looked at it and failed.
What you are doing is cherry picking.
Okay.
By just
the
isolating
VA hospital. I did find my notes.
Hold on. Okay, Grid, go ahead and respond, and then back to you, Rinyald.
Yeah. All right. So, I did find my notes on the because I didn't want to make, I don't like to be wrong. So Mountain Home Virginia VA Medical Center in Tennessee. Tennessee. I don't know what's with us tonight. We're winning it all. Actually paid hookers to come in and have sex orgies with patients and maybe some staff. As a matter of fact, there was one employee engaged in sexual relations with 32 different coworkers. And these activities were reportedly discussed openly on a government communication portal used for official operations. And we paid for it. Our tax dollars were paying for all of it.
I mean,
And
again,
no one got fired.
I think it's ironic that you say that I'm cherry picking when you're picking this one thing that happened in Tennessee
I'm
to
using it
do
as an
away with the
example, but it's
results of
an
an audit
larger
over the
thing.
entire fiscal
Hold on,
year.
hold on, hold on.
So
You're
to like
using that
Rinyald's point,
real quick.
Hold on, because Rinyald needs the opportunity to respond, please.
Yeah, we're using this one thing that happened in Tennessee to disregard the findings of the Office of the Inspector General over the entire fiscal year of 2023. That is the definition of cherry picking. And then on top of that, if you're saying, okay, well, there's a problem because these people didn't get fired after that happened, you already conceded that DOGE has no firing authority. So, I mean, DOGE isn't going to be able to do anything about that anyway.
They make the recommendations to have them fired. But I'm not cherry picking this one instance. There's many instances. I just happen to like this one because it's kind of bombastic and hilarious that we actually paid, our tax dollars were paid for orgies. It was crazy. But
I mean, this is the definition of cherry picking, though.
Well, it's just evidence of the problem that is.
I'm just
somehow we have to keep catching it retroactively. Why do we have to keep catching it retroactively?
Hold up.
There's a whole list. Do you want me to? I mean, I can take all night and go down the whole list of pottery making programs in Afghanistan that never existed. 20 million for a hospital in Afghanistan never existed. Not one person hired. Multiple examples of ghost employees getting paid.
I mean,
wait, let me ask you something. For the Afghanistan example, is this for like the previous Afghanistan government or the current Taliban government? Because I imagine if like there was a grant that was issued.
I have dates here, but again, my notes are low. I've got dates.
No, but like you can understand there could be a problem that there's basically a government takeover where it's a different government now. So like if a program like started under like let's say Obama was supposed to like go on forever, and then like you have the Taliban take over, I'd imagine that money probably wouldn't have gone into their hands, right?
And
yes, but where did it go?
I would point out too. I mean, like obviously this is something that
Hold on, let him respond. Go ahead, Ronald.
This is something that Pentuple said, where like obviously you're not going to be able to retroactively find every single piece of fraud that happens within the federal government, but you pointing out specific things that didn't get prosecuted by the OIG doesn't negate the findings of the OIG, negate the money that the OIG brought in, and negate the fact that DOGE has not brought in that much money through what we can verify.
Yet.
I think to be fair to Grid, it does show that somehow that money was spent and we have to catch it retroactively. We need a system where it's not possible to like find this type of like mistake. We shouldn't be able, government money should not be able to be mistakenly spent like this, right? I mean, it's kind of indicative of a failing system. That's Grid's point, right?
You guys are using examples set over 10, 12, 20-year time period. We're talking about 100 days. And this is what's been uncovered. Think about next year. Think about 2 years from now. Well, actually, because you can't because it'll end July 4th, 2026. DOGE will be disbanded, and probably the systems that hopefully have been installed will take over and run everything, which is exactly why your arguments fail, because they're not doing this forever. They set up a system, and you're arguing about, well, you're cherry picking. These things are what they've uncovered in less than 100 days. So you're talking about something I spent 10 years and failed at doing.
No, to be clear, the 90 billion number that I'm citing is over one fiscal year. It's over the span of 2023. Okay. But the verifiable number from like grants that we can verify that DOGE canceled and certain other things, I think is around 12 billion. I know that in the Twitter post that Pentuple posted, it was around 17 billion. So even if we want to go with the 17 billion,
I have a note that it's 150 billion verifiable.
Yeah, but that's not verifiable.
Not verifiable. No, it's not verifiable. Because most of those aren't even itemized. Like we can't even like see if like these grants are actually what it says.
But, I mean, isn't that kind of the problem I'm identifying? That we don't have the data that we need to really like stop this stuff before it happens, and then we retroactively finding it is just proof that the system allows for these errors to be made.
Yeah, so but no one's going to argue.
We don't have evidence of finding it, but what happens when it's impossible to get evidence of it? Which is kind of the issue where you run into these dead ends on the audits.
Sure, and I think you are accurately describing a problem, but the problem is that I disagree that DOGE is accurately addressing that problem.
Wait, what?
I think he's accurately
just
pointing out a problem.
respectfully, yeah, sure.
I think he's accurate in pointing out that there is a problem with fraud, waste, and abuse in the government. But I disagree that DOGE is an effective way of pointing it out, let alone more effective than what you're already doing.
Activity is you don't like Elon Musk.
No, the whole argument is if DOGE is fulfilling its promise, and I'm here to argue that it's not. I'm not here to argue about fraud and waste and if it's good in the government. I came here to argue about DOGE, so I'm arguing about DOGE.
That is the promise that it made. They're going to
promise
down. They're
especially
going to
this one about retroactive fraud and waste and abuse. I think anyone who supports DOGE would say that they're passionate and would love to go after all of the retroactive fraud, waste, and abuse that we can find. But I think that also realistically, you know, when you actually sit down and try to approach these problems, there's just obstacles to doing that. And those obstacles are the reasons that it can happen in the first place, right? So as much as I would love to, you know, deliver on what Elon said about trying to reduce all this retroactive, catch all this stuff retroactively, DOGE will deliver, in my mind, not based on how much that they can identify as waste, fraud, and abuse, but by implementing these systems in the government, specifically computer systems and computer networks, that will help us prevent these things from happening.
That's potentially true, and in order for that to bear out, we would just have to see how it bears out over time. But I would say if an organization says that we're going to cut $2 trillion in fraud, waste, and abuse, we're going to fire all of these, you know, ineffective people within the federal government, and we're going to add this thing. Right? Sure, but if it's only fulfilling potentially one of the three aspects, I would say that that's still not fulfilling the promise. If you promise to find $2 trillion in fraud, if you promise to find $2 trillion in fraud, and you in
one of them, I would say okay, if we have to either uncover waste, fraud, and abuse retroactive, or modernize our systems and improve the auditability of those systems, that is the more important thing. There is just the question how much money could possibly be uncovered. I think that the amount of spending that our government does, just at the scale it does. I mean, what our yearly spend for the government is $6-7 trillion. It's just, I think the waste, fraud, and abuse, just because we haven't found it and proven it in a court, I don't think that means that most people are convinced that our government's all on the up and up financially. And I think it's
I don't think anybody.
Problem, I guess.
I don't think people are going to say. Yeah, I don't think people are going to say that the government is completely up and up because we have, inspector generals. But I don't think anybody's going to say that because we have DOGE either. And if they promised three blockbuster things that they would do, and they put one out in the forefront by saying that we were going to cut $2 trillion in waste, and then they only fulfill one of the secondary goals, I wouldn't say that that's actually fulfilling the promise.
Well, I would say that one is the secondary goal. But to be fair, you're right. Say he under delivers on this promise. I still think it's an admirable goal to come in and say, look, we're going to try to find as much as we can. We want to find $2 trillion or whatever. And then, the number goes down, whatever. I'm not exactly up to date on his comments on that. But, I would want them going in saying hey, we're going to find all of it. We're going to do as much as we can. And then as they, go through that process and understand exactly what's more realistic, the numbers start coming in. I mean, it's certainly not zero. I've seen government programs that have been cut and canceled, these things in Zimbabwe and these memes that are be putting out. Are none of them legitimate? I mean, 16-17 million, it's easy to brush it off as a small number, but this is a lot of money.
But if we're isolating,
and that all adds up.
If we're isolating to the topic, and Elon comes in and he initially promises $2 trillion, walks it back to $1 trillion, and then walks it back to 160 billion, and then ends up saving a verifiable amount of around 17 billion. I don't think in any world we would say that that's actually meaningfully fulfilling your promise, even if your aims were potentially noble.
But if DOGE had been sold to me as, hey, we're not coming in to uncover any retroactive waste, fraud, and abuse. We are solely coming in to modernize the systems and improve them for the future to prevent waste, fraud, and abuse. I would be equally passionate about that Department of Government efficiency. I am
maybe, but that's not how it was
very
sold.
excited about the potential of attacking retroactive fraud. Certainly, I think anyone would agree that if there is retroactive fraud that we can catch, we would want to catch it. So I love that there's people looking into it. I like that the idea that the people in charge of our government spending are maybe a little bit more hesitant about sending out money without payment codes, and we have to have a point of contact. I imagine there's some people say, no, don't put my fucking name on that payment. These are things that are the ultimate like promise of Doge. If we don't find any of the retroactive fraud, which I wouldn't say we found none. I don't know whether, I'm not gonna, we won't put a number on it because we can stipulate that it's unverified.
Mhm.
We have to improve and modernize our systems. They are stuck in the past. I mean, the Social Security thing Elon was talking about, this is sort of a tangent example, but our Social Security retirement or our federal government employee retirement process was still being done by paper down in a mine, right? Like, these are the types of systems where it's like, look, we need these departments to update their computer systems, and we want all of this done in a way that our government systems can communicate with each other, that we can have an effective network, especially for the Treasury, to monitor these payments that are going out to all of these departments. That's why we're mandating electronic fund transfers instead of allowing them all to use paper checks and adopt this old paper system. This is the type of thing that delivers on that promise, and they are doing it.
I mean, if you want to just isolate it to that, that's fine. And like, if that was just the goal, again, like I would theoretically appreciate that. But the problem is that's just not how Doge was sold. That's not how Doge was sold by Elon. I don't think that's how Doge was sold by Trump. And even if that was the goal, I don't even know, like, if they just came out and said like, oh yeah, Doge is going to come in and they're going to modernize some of our computer systems, I don't even know if me and Classy would even be here right now. I don't think that we would even argue against that. I think the problem is that, and we're kind of also disregarding some of the more like practical implication problems that I have with Doge, because there's been, like the whistleblower testimony and yada, 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 stuff like that. But the problem that I'm trying to hit at right now is that what Doge was promised to be by people like Elon Musk, by people like Donald Trump, it just doesn't seem like it's bearing out to be that, which I don't think is meaningfully fulfilling the promise that was given to the American people on the campaign trail.
Yeah, I mean, I can read you the statement from President Trump from November of 2024. I already said in my opening statement, but it was specifically about this waste fraud. It was about our budget. It didn't mention anything about our digital systems or updating our computers, which, yeah, I would agree is something we should do. But again, the problem of the debate, did Doge fulfill its promise? And I don't think it did. If it did something else that was good, fine, but that wasn't its original intention, is what we're trying to say here.
Or what it was sold as overall.
Yeah,
I think again, I still think it has. I think that they're on the path. I think that you're literally ignoring the programs that they've ended or revising that down the road save billions of dollars, maybe trillions. I don't know if we can get to trillions, just because trillions is a big number. But right now, I had to look it up because you guys kept saying this, and I had to look it up, and I had to find a outside the U.S. source. I don't normally look up information during a debate, but you guys kept saying this. So 32.5 billion savings with receipt attached, 61.5 billion itemized savings, 160 billion current estimated savings, and that's kind of where they're at right now. And then they have the 1 trillion revised pledge, and that is still gaining every day.
Where are you getting that from?
They haven't stopped. Now, obviously, Elon's out. I think in like 3 or 4 weeks, his 130-day commitment is up. So then Doge will be doing its own thing without him. And then it ends on July 4th, 2026. So we can actually see at that point whether they've met or failed that goal. But saying 100 days in, well, they failed to meet it, this goal is absurd. But we can track that they are trying to meet it. They are working that way. It's not like they just walked in with a red pen and just started marking stuff off a list. They have to go, and I know that Democrats would love for that to be the case, so they could really, really fry Elon's testicles over the fire. But the reality is they are going in and analyzing this stuff and seeing what makes sense, what is fraud, waste, or abuse, and what can be revised. I mean, they've already looked at the computer systems that some of the agencies were using are from the fucking 70s, dude. Like, can you even imagine the pain in the ass integration has to be when you're dealing with 1970s technology? I'm assuming they're not computer systems. I'm assuming when they say computers, what they mean is communications, and it's some kind of phone system or something. But I don't know because I don't work for the government.
Well, we actually already knew about this like for a long time. It's a problem that's been going on for a while now. It's very difficult to solve. I mean, do you think it's a problem that like they temporarily like laid off like two of nuclear arms workers for like a weekend? Like, you don't think like that's worse because of the potential like hazard that could happen?
I'm sorry, they just laid off a few people.
Yeah, like the two people for nuclear arms over a weekend.
Pentuple, you're muted.
Yeah, I didn't
can't
know
hear
if he
you.
was. Sorry. I was sitting there thinking, I'm like, is he talking to us or his audience?
I apologize.
Um,
But I was saying, what are you worried about these people that were laid off for a week? Are we hiring the type of person our nuclear arms is going to like get upset and go share our nuclear secrets or something? Like, what's the concern that you were with there?
That they could leak radiation that we can destroy the world if
You think we have people working in our nuclear arms departments that would be like willing to leak information because they were let go?
No, I'm saying that they weren't possibly working over the weekend because they were laid off. Like, there is no way to account if they actually showed up to office because they were laid off over that weekend.
Oh,
Well, that was part of them, right? It wasn't the entire staff.
Yeah,
correct?
but like if we're talking about something very important of our
yeah, so
nuclear
they laid
arms,
off
I
third
would
shift.
worry.
They were rehired, right?
They
I'm
were
asking questions
rehired.
in good faith. I don't know the
rehired,
details about
Only
the story
some.
exactly.
Only some.
Something to keep in mind too with the firings is that like it's hard to, first of all, I like great, I would need you to cite the like whatever numbers you were listing because that's like totally far off of what I was reading.
I will.
And
I'm
as-
going to throw it in the back chat because I don't know. Again, I don't normally do that. I think it's really bad form to do it because I'd rather argue the issues and argue the people than argue anything else. But I will. Where the fuck? Is that?
But like as it regards to like the trillion number that you're bringing up, or even like the hundreds of billions number, I mean, if that was even something that DOGE was looking at, why would they walk the number back? If they were on pace to claim $2 trillion, why would DOGE not claim $2 trillion? Why would they walk it back to 1 trillion and then walk it back to 160 billion?
Yeah. Okay. So DOGE didn't make the promise. Trump made the promise. DOGE did the analysis and said, "Hey, there's just not that much. We think there. I mean, I know we thought there was, but there just isn't."
Well, no, like Musk
also,
literally
clear,
explicitly
he walked it
said
back from 2 trillion
Hold
to
on.
1 trillion, and they're claiming to be at 160 billion. They didn't say we're only going to get 160 billion. They're still saying we're at 1 trillion. We're getting there. We're at 160, which you guys dispute. But they walked it back from 2 trillion to 1 trillion, which I would argue is probably just because they looked at the data and saw what was more realistic, which is fine. But
I would push back real quick and say it wasn't Trump that made that pledge, though. Like explicitly, Mr. Musk pledged to cut at least $2 trillion from the federal government budget.
Well, that's even cooler because that's a guy who's not a member of the government yet, has no idea what he's talking about, and he's just speaking rhetorically. Like, I'm okay with that.
Well,
why are your panties so twisted?
Because if he promised to do that, and if he promised to do that and then he didn't do that, then DOGE is not fulfilling the promise.
I mean, if I promise to do 100 push-ups, and I only did one push-up. Oh, look, I succeeded. I did 2 push-ups.
All talking. Go ahead, Grid.
I'm really bad at organizing those. I'm sorry. I had the scope. I outlined it in my opening. The scope of DOGE was not to hit a specific number target. That's Elon speaking rhetorically for the press. DOGE was specifically tasked with the reforming of especially data systems in general, and I think specifically data systems because we still have systems that run on magnetic tape, dudes. I mean, that's insane. It was to find the waste, fraud, and abuse, right?
Is the public messaging beforehand irrelevant then?
Well, I think we're focusing on DOGE as the purpose is finding retroactive waste, fraud, and abuse, when if that was the case, it would need to be a permanent department, wouldn't it? This is a temporary department, which I think indicates that the purpose is for setting up these systems, like I said, which is what they are ultimately there to deliver on. I would love for them to also uncover as much waste, fraud, and abuse as they dive in and update these payment systems. They have access to the data and they should look at it and see what we can find. But ultimately, the question of whether DOGE is delivering on its promise, regardless of how it was sold in the future, if they succeed updating and improving these government systems, they will have delivered on that purpose.
Well,
whether you agree on the promise or not, they will deliver.
Isn't it how it's sold? Isn't it how it's sold? The whole point.
Well, who is it sold to? The people that pay attention to politics?
You had to vote on
people
it.
like us that are like really paying attention.
It's voter base. You guys are acting like it was sold like it was a bill that was voted on it in Congress. It wasn't. It was established by EO with the specific objectives of modernization of federal operations, streamlining technology and software to enhance efficiency, fiscal prudence, aiming to cut federal spending by up to $2 trillion, which may or may not ever happen. Who knows? We don't know yet. Bureaucratic reduction, dismantling redundant agencies and eliminating unnecessary programs, which they have done and will continue to do as they move forward. So that was the mission statement.
I mean, if he's running an election on finding retroactive fraud, and the entire voter base agrees that that's probably the goal of what DOGE is, like I feel like if you ask a majority of MAGA voters, they would say that the point of DOGE is to find fraud in the federal government.
Right here.
Well, finding fraud is a multifaceted thing. This is like when we're talking about eliminating fraud, waste, and abuse. This is a retroactive thing. This is also something that, like, how does it happen? How do we find it retroactively? What's allowing it to happen that we're finding it retroactively? Both of those are equally important in solving that problem of eliminating waste, fraud, and abuse. You can't just solve it by only ever attacking retroactively. You have to go, set up the system to prevent it and get in front of it. But this idea that you fail because you don't catch it retroactively, that's if you only had to choose one, if they found every single dollar of retroactive waste and then ended in a year because it's a temporary body, we would promise, because they just found retroactive fraud and still allowed the payment systems to be faulty to a point that it allows that level of whatever they found. So the purpose really is more important than the promise. When we look forward, regardless of how this was sold, most people aren't really, as into politics as us. A lot of people aren't even paying attention. The purpose of what this does in eliminating waste, fraud, and abuse, if it's successful in doing that, and I would argue it is successful in working towards that goal, then the purpose is it is what it is, and the purpose of the system is there, and that's what it has succeeded. And it doesn't matter how it was sold or what rhetoric you caught on with during the election. It's going to be the purpose that matters at the end of the day.
I mean, first of all, I super disagree that the way that it's sold isn't relevant. And I feel like in most cases, like if somebody's selling something to be one thing and then it turns out to be another thing, we wouldn't say that they fulfilled the original promise. So that's the first thing.
150 billion.
I wouldn't say it's not delivering on the promise. That's
the second thing is that if he wanted to disregard finding retroactive fraud, then that's fine. Or if he wanted to, if that wasn't the goal, then anytime that DOGE gets brought up, they wouldn't just cite that 160 billion number like that. Like whenever you talk
that helps
about
people
DOGE,
understand the scale of the problem. That's what is exciting about it, is showing proof. Hey, look, if we can find 160 billion dollars in waste, most people are going to see that and understand that our government has a huge problem that is much larger than what we found, because we will never find 100%. Whatever we find will always be less than whatever's actually out there.
Theoretically, if it's saying that it cut that much, but the original promise was $2 trillion, and it's not going to do that, then the promise that they made
we don't know exactly where the future.
Let him finish. Please let him finish.
Yeah, it's just as simple as if the way that it's sold is one thing, and then it turns out being another thing, then it didn't fulfill the promise of its original aims.
But it hasn't failed to do that yet.
But it's
not done. It's not done until July 4th, 2026. If they haven't hit 2 million by that time, then okay, we'll say, we missed the goal. Sorry.
They're not even remotely on track to hit 2 trillion. Like not even close.
How do we know? We've done 160 billion.
Well, it's not a linear thing always. We don't know that it's going to be linear, right?
Are they going to find $1 trillion overnight?
Yeah,
1.9 trillion.
I really can't hear any of you. Okay, if it's only a good point, I'll allow it.
I have a good point here. Hasn't one of the complaints been that DOGE hasn't quite targeted military spending yet?
Targeted,
yeah, because that would be one of the major.
So if we started targeting military spending and waste and fraud, that linear chart of waste and fraud that we're on pace for would surely increase, right? Because that is a much larger pile of money.
Do you think we're going to find $1.8 trillion?
Well, since you mention it,
come
on. They've just canceled.
Wait, we're spending $7 trillion. You think we're getting that out of it?
They've
1.8.
Oh my goodness, gentlemen! Let me send a kind reminder to all four of you. You've been kind of doing this all night where you're trying to interject, and I understand it. It's meaningful. You want to say something, but let's at least allow each other to finish, because if not, you sound like, and it sounds like you're all sucking each other's balls on a microphone. Okay, one at a time. Grid back to you, please.
Me?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. It's interesting that you mention that because just in contract cancellations, now these are not realized yet. These are just contracts that have been terminated. For example, there's a $1.9 billion IT agreement that contributes to those savings. We can find $1.8 trillion by just canceling a bunch of stupid contracts that we don't need anymore. We are literally paying people to do things for nothing. And as they continue to find those and refine the process to find those things, the more money continues to rack up. This is the absurdity of the idea that he was going to walk in on day one and cut $3 trillion from the budget. That's borderline insanity? But okay, but at any rate, what DOGE has accomplished, and let's see if we can agree on this, right? They've overhauled several agencies, right? Just right out of the gate. Now they're not done yet, but they have, right? They got rid of USAID, which was a horrible agency. The CFPD or CFPB, I'm sorry, I always fuck that up. They've restructured that one. They're getting rid of that, right? Because that was basically all fraud, right? Can we agree on that? They've already done.
They specifically, it's an antitrust agency. I mean, it stops the merging of corporations, collaboration. Sorry, I'm messing up my words. Of these corporations, I'm not convinced. Like this was one of the things that JD Vance actually complimented Lena Khan, the previous head of the no, that was the Federal Trade Commission. I'm sorry, that was the wrong point. My point is though, no, the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau, specifically what protects us, the consumers, from credit card companies, actually. So I don't see how you could say that's fraud.
We have like 3 agencies to protect us from credit card companies. Why do we need 3 agencies to do that?
What do you mean we have 3 agencies?
Right. That would be prior to that.
Well, what are the other 2 agencies?
Well, the Security and Exchange Commission regulates banking and credit cards, right? Is that accurate?
I would assume that probably not in order to protect the consumer. That would be my guess.
It is literally a consumer protection agency.
Potentially, I don't know.
Because my understanding of it, that we created the CFPD like in the wake of the 2008 recession because there wasn't that strong enough of an agency to protect the consumers, only to protect the banks.
I mean, okay, so if it's true that the CFPB,
the FDIC technically does. I mean, I don't know. There's some overlap there. Again, this is why we have agencies like DOGE, because while I'm pretty well versed in finance, I don't know all of the ins and outs. I'm like most people. I just use my credit card. I don't think about it very much.
I mean, just out of curiosity, like you say, okay, there's 3 different agencies that are responsible for protecting consumers from credit card card mishandling or bank mishandling or whatever. Have you ever looked up the goal of these 3 commissions?
Well, they're regulatory agencies.
Have you ever looked up the point of them?
I'm sorry, I couldn't hear you.
Have you ever looked up the goal of them? Because it feels
goal.
Yeah.
They're consumer protections agencies. I assume that's right in their name.
Okay, well, that's the problem. I mean, you're asking what the difference between these 3 things is, but you didn't.
I asked you what do you think the deal is? What do you think the difference is?
It's a Google search away.
I don't.
I mean, I can tell you from the top of my head, the CFPD does. Sorry, can I just finish my point? And then, yeah, the CFPD does more than just protect consumers. It also provides education. It also, especially where seniors are really vulnerable to these scams. It also provides sort of a platform to address scams. It does a lot of good things. That was, at least in my opinion, one of the biggest success of the Obama administration. But I guess you could disagree.
Except it apparently was a scam in and of itself because it got ended.
Well, it didn't get ended yet, but it was severe.
It's been disbanded, or for the most part, strongly reduced.
But why do you say it's a scam, though?
Why would I say it's a scam?
Yeah,
I didn't look up why they terminated it. I just looked up that they terminated it.
So Trump says it's a scam, so it's a scam?
I'm sorry?
Trump says it's a scam, therefore it's a scam.
Did I say Trump said it's a scam?
No, it's Doge.
But he said it was a scam, though.
DOGE pointed to it as something and examined it and said, this is fraud, waste, and abuse.
But
That's
why? Like, I'm asking for like the reason, like what makes it fraud, waste, and abuse?
I didn't look into it. I am okay with it.
I mean,
I don't really care that much about the CFPD because I have never had any actual interaction with them.
It's my impression that agency literally like provides a return on investment. So I don't like if it's already doing that. If it's providing return on an investment, then it's probably fine. But I mean,
I got that very seriously. So anyway, workforce reduction was another goal in the EO. Can we agree that you guys thought they only eliminated like a few thousand jobs? They eliminated 260,000 federal positions through layoffs and buyouts. Now the buyouts count against us, right? Because we had to pay out their retirements and salaries and whatnot. But that's okay because maybe we just didn't need those people.
Well, I mean, it looks like this is what I read, that around 24,000 government employees were fired as a part of a resignation plan. That's a lot of money. I mean, I agree that like there probably was a reduction in federal employment as a result of DOGE. I don't think anybody could possibly disagree with that unless they were like psychotic. I would probably disagree that those were smart, especially since part of the people that they were laying off was the inspector generals. But I mean, I'm just gonna throw my hands up there. Yeah, I would probably disagree that those are good. I would say that they're probably kind of costly, especially when the goal of DOGE is to kind of balance the budget, but then we're paying all of this money for people who should be at work doing their jobs to just stay home as a part of a buyout. Yeah.
Well,
I mean,
we see that with like athletes all the time. We'll see like, or like a head coach for like a NBA team gets fired and they're still going to pay him 20 million over the next 4 years, but that's because they see it as, they're better off just cutting that tie. They're going to, if they keep him on as a coach and pay him that 40 million, it's going to be worse overall.
Another 10 years and them paying their retirement.
Right. Like there may be a cost involved. And I think in a lot of ways, this expensive payout that we gave them is kind of like, if we hadn't done this, we would be accused of like, like, oh, you don't care about these people. We do kind of care about the people that we're laying off. We want them to go and get new jobs and stuff like that. We don't want to send them off and just screw them over. I thought that what we did was very generous and probably the best decision to make, because you do want to give these people like a, confidence going back to the market. You don't want to dog them. I think we'd be getting accused of inequity if we hadn't been so generous with them.
I mean,
ultimately like cutting that off cutting that off, I think is like still, even if it's like, yeah, it costs some money. I think it's still easy to say that like this buyout is long-term a benefit financially.
Potentially financially, but then the problem comes with like, there's some, nuances that I don't think we're looking at. So, I mean, for example, like the Department of Government Efficiency firing like 75% of an agency is probably not going to make that agency more efficient. Even if it ends up, saving money in the long run. The idea of increasing efficiency by laying off certain agencies' workforces by like 50%, 20%, whatever. Like there's been testimony from certain civil servants that like their budget's been cut so bad that they need to like rely on hotspots for internet, that they need to like share computers with other civil servants. The idea that the Department of Government Efficiency is recommending like price cuts to this extent and layoffs to this extent, to the point where it's actually hindering the agency's ability to work efficiently, I think is acting against what DOGE was there to do.
And I just want to add one point, though, that a lot of the people that were laid off were probationary employees, which includes new employees, but also employees that were about to be promoted. So if we're talking about the question of merit, doesn't concern you that we're actually potentially firing some of the best people if these were the people that were actually just about to be promoted to their new position?
I've fired a lot of people. So most of the time, it's been my experience that even firing somebody that could have been valuable is they'll find somebody, they'll find somewhere else, and I'll find an employee to replace them if I need one. And by the way, the idea that cutting 50% of an agency hampers its efficiency is just ridiculous. Most of the times when corporately, and this is something I'm sure that Elon knows from the corporate world, a lot of times going through and just identifying what everybody does, you'll find that, on a 20-person team, you have 4 people actually doing the work. The rest of that team is dead weight, and they just need to go away. And it's you actually improve efficiency by getting rid of those people. And I'm sure that's been Elon's experience. That's been my experience in hiring and firing people. I always tended to run lean. I always found that the more people I added to a team or to a project, it really helped efficiency.
I mean,
it usually made things worse, if anything else.
Potentially, as it relates to your own personal business, I could maybe concede that. But I mean, the reason that I'm saying that it's hampering the efficiency of the departments isn't just like some sort of like theory. It's that we have testimony from certain civil servants saying that, the way that this agency is fucked right now. No, people who are still there, people who are still working as a part of these agencies, like, hey, this is not working effectively, or like the lawsuits that are resulting as a wrongful termination is costing a lot of money, or there's other technical staff. There's that famous whistleblower right now, and if you want to doubt the credibility of it, that's fine. But like they're reporting serious data security problems. There was another. That there's like a ton of logons from like Russian IPs. There were 21 DOGE. There were 21 DOGE service members who resigned upon testimony that the DOGE people that were coming in as a part of Elon's group was mishandling sensitive data. So it's not just that, in theory, laying off 50% of an agency is going to hamper its ability to function, but we're also having like tons of testimonies from civil servants that are saying, these layoffs and these price cuts are inhibiting our ability to function.
So I want to sort of respond to this. These federal jobs we were talking about are like notoriously cushy jobs. They like have great job security, great pay. And I think when it comes to these cuts, because it's the government, it really doesn't matter if you're good or great at your job. What matters is, do we need you to do your job? Do we need this job done? This isn't about the employee, because the arguments you're making, if I flip the logic, why aren't we always in a position to hire more federal employees, especially if they'll be great at their job? Like, why not always just be hiring? But at some point, it's like, when do you decide when a federal job needs to exist? It can't be about the person doing it. It has to be about whether that's an effective role that our government needs to be performed. And so the idea that like some of these employees are getting laid off, oh, they were great at their job, they showed up every day, they had all these, benefits and stuff, they had worked for 20 years. I mean, these people have had some of the cushiest jobs to be driving up the fucking housing prices where I live like crazy. I'm kind of excited for September. I'm hoping some of the rents will drop around here. But I think in some ways we have to figure out what justifies a job in the federal government. And a lot of the times you can be great at your job, but if it's redundant or if it, ceases to be necessary, like maybe one year we really need it and the next year we're like, hey, we don't really need this position anymore. Like, we can't be making these decisions based off of like the, personal careers of these federal employees, which sucks for sure. And I'm not saying we can't have like, career benefits and stuff like that. Like that, the federal government is going to have, these perks when you have careers there for sure. But at the same time, we have to make this analysis based on the purpose and role of that government job, not about the person and whether they're good at it.
Yeah, I agree. But the problem is that like again, like this isn't just like a problem in theory. This is also like a problem that we're seeing play out right now. Like if we were just firing people who are redundant workers, we wouldn't be paying out the ass to bring a lot of them back. I mean,
but we're not.
Well, when we're bringing them back, to be fair, I want to know, and I don't know the answer to this, but are we bringing them back into the same exact role that we let them go? Or are we kind of like, hey, we let this department go, you got fired, but hey, you know what? Actually, you're right. Your department lead told us like we really had value with you and that you do serve a certain role here that we need. You're going to come back. Please work at like this other department. Like how, I don't know how it's exactly working.
Yeah.
If it's the case where they're firing them and they're just immediately be like, we need you back at this, same place. You might have a better argument, but if they're doing this thing where they're letting them go and coming back into a different role, that actually seems kind of on par for how we would expect
my understanding
to go. I did actually look into that part of it, and what I found was that other than the nuclear technicians that worked in the nuclear plants that got fired, and that honestly, I have a theory that that was a tactical firing to make them come back, understanding that they need to actually do their job rather than just show up. Because I know I just have a, it's just weird the way that went down.
40 chess.
Right. That's just weird the way it went down. But they're really not rehiring people like you would like. The people don't seem like they're wanting to report. I don't see any actual proof of that. Just rhetoric and innuendo. There's no like these guys are getting rehired back at the IRS. It's just not happening.
I mean, my understanding is that like whenever I see reports of people being reinstated, it's reinstatements. So like reinstated implies that it's coming back to the same term. And I can also point to the thing that Classy brought up about the nuclear monitors. And also a lot of the bringing back is as a result of wrongful termination lawsuits, I believe. So I mean, if it's a wrongful termination, then I assume that they're probably coming back to the same position.
That's possible.
Yeah, it's possible. I didn't. Now I haven't. I didn't look into the wrongful termination. I looked into the rehiring, and I didn't see any of the. There's no evidence to say that to support that a large number, a significant portion of the people who are being fired, laid off, etc. And that actually, I believe that the rehiring law or the wrongful termination lawsuits are why they're paying out doing the buyouts of people's retirements and whatnot. But again, I don't know how successful all of this is going to be in the current environment, just because I don't know if you've ever I don't know what your experiences are in life, but firing somebody from a corporate or a government job is damn near impossible. It's just crazy how hard it really is for a government employee to get fired. They can be completely inept at their job, show up 3 days a week. There's actually a kind of a famous case. I believe it was in San Francisco, but I could be wrong about that. Where this woman worked like, no kidding, like a few months a year, and she would take like all of these various leaves and have all these reasons, and they never could fire her. They just couldn't fire her because of the protected class that is the government employee. So that's one of the things I think that DOGE gets right is they go in and they say, nope, sorry, you're no longer needed. And the way they're doing is they just get rid of entire departments, right? Like this department no longer exists, so you don't have a job. And that's how they do that. And
yeah,
I do believe that Pentuple has a point that we'll see larger and larger amounts as they get into military spending, research and development, and overlapping agencies. Overlapping agencies is where I think we're going to see the largest, other than military, largest gain in money saved or diverted back into useful things. I don't know if we'll hit 2 trillion, 3 trillion, whatever it is. I don't know. Maybe we will, but
just to jump on. Oh, my bad.
No, go ahead.
I was gonna say, and just to quickly double down on Griff's point, I live in the DC area, so I'm very familiar with this. I know a lot of people that have fully remote jobs with the federal government. That they show up whenever they want. They show up for a couple hours a day if they need to go in for something. They go golfing while they're on the clock and stuff like that. There is something to be said about how cushy these jobs are, and that a lot of them really are probably just like on paper, oh yeah, of course, we need this. This is really, really good on paper. And then in reality, there's really no oversight happening at these departments. So it is a visible problem. I don't even work for the federal government. I just living in the area and having people I know I have a really close friend of mine whose dad is one of the people I'm describing. Dream job, honestly.
There's also a problem of the president's authority to just get rid of departments and as an extension of just get rid of all of the workers that work for the departments. I think there's probably legal questions there that I think are playing out in court right now. I would lean towards it being illegal, but I mean, that's probably a separate conversation because of how in depth we could get into that.
Right.
But I mean, as it relates to laying off federal workers, I would probably just, divert to the testimony of the people who are saying that, these certain cuts are harming the way that we run.
Well,
If
there's a little bit of a
something-
bias when like you're involved and it's like it's your department or it's your funding or it's your job or like I mean,
if
to
it's
be
just
fair,
like a civil
anyone in the
servant,
government
then
who has
fine.
one of these cushy jobs is going to say like, no, my department's important. Like my department needs this. We need more funding, right?
Well, it's
I
not
mean,
even
I
saying
just
we
feel
need
like
more
it's
funding.
not compelling to me.
It's not even saying like we need more funding. It's like particular things of like there was a data breach here, or like these people are mishandling data, or like we have to use hotspots from our phone in order to have access to the internet. Like that's I think it's a separate thing.
Fair enough.
Yeah, I don't care anything about all that bitching and moaning. And whining.
Okay. Well, if you're promoting government efficiency, then I would say you probably should.
If you're using, first of all, what job do you have for the federal government where you need to use your phone to connect to the internet?
That's the problem, is that the internet is dying. I don't remember what specifically the person worked for. I can look it up real quick.
Because that would be really weird.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Because you should not be using your cell phone to access. And I mean, depending on what your
Unless
job.
you're Hillary Clinton.
Wait, are you talking about like a?
Got him.
Are you talking about like a personal phone or like a employee phone?
Like maybe a BlackBerry.
Ooh, oof, oof, oof.
No, I'm just playing.
By the way, the executive branch can pretty much fire anybody in government that's not elected. Just let you know that.
I mean, we can have a.
I'll reach out
about that separately.
to Rinyald with this. I do like semi agree and disagree. I think the president's agenda and the president's overarching like platform is what should be the directive for our federal government. But I also agree with you in the sense that like you don't necessarily want the president micromanaging every single role and position, right? Like at the same time, he does have the ability to access the information maybe needed to make a decision on it. So it's a hard question because I see what you're saying, where it's like it's easy for the president to say like, hey, we don't need this department, and it's like, well, did he get through the due diligence of like understanding exactly what that department does and its purpose? Like I agree with that, I guess, but ultimately, I think, especially when we're talking about like democracy and all this stuff, it's like the president's mandate needs to be tested. I've kind of made the analogy of like society is trying to select a person to go over and manipulate 3 levers. And these levers control how we, there's like the decisions that the government makes. There's one way to challenge who is going over to the levers to decide whether to like put this one up and this one down. That's what we want to do as a society and try this as our system. And then having someone go over and make the levers dysfunctional or to like manipulate them behind the scenes so that when we think we've elected this party or we've elected this president or we've elected this platform, but it's never implemented, you're not really letting us like, you're not really honoring that that's what we wanted to attempt and try, right?
I would kind of
like, oh, you can just stall us out for 4 years. Like
I can half meet you to where like, I mean, there should be some democratic say in these agencies, obviously. But I feel like if an agency is created through an act of Congress and the president takes actions to effectively neuter the amount of the enforcement arm of that act of Congress, it's probably not like faithfully adhering to the act of Congress. And if the people want that, organization terminated, they should probably just vote for different senators, vote for different representatives. They still have an arm to affect change when it comes to the executive branch. It's just that no one really pays attention to politics, so they don't see what that arm is.
Ooh.
That seems like a pretty convoluted way to go about firing somebody. That is not the way our government was founded. I understand you guys like big government, but that is not the way our government was intended to be.
I mean, take it up with the Constitution. The president can't just get rid of an act of Congress. That's like a...
That's more like a powerful king, if anything.
Well, I mean, certainly are gonna like break down all the balance of powers and stuff, but it's not like it's rock paper scissors where it's like this branch over this branch, and this it is really complicated. And the president is the most powerful individual in government. So the president is on the same level as Congress, right?
We can have
the executive is led by one person. Then Congress, you have the senators in the House, and then you have the judiciary. That's 9 judges. We do give a lot of deference to the president, and the reason is because this can this is the only person that's elected by the entire American people.
We can have the unitary executive theory conversation another time. I don't think it's super relevant to the topic here.
Yeah. That's okay. I mean, you guys, I feel like we are coming to almost a dead end with the topic for you, and I would be interested in if you are, we could close down on your end and then go into open panel if you want to do that.
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay,
Okay.
because I
I can
feel
do it.
like
It's fine.
yeah. All right. So what we'll do is I'm going to go ahead and drop the members only link in a community post for the members if you want to start shuffling backstage. In the meantime, let's go ahead and give out our closing statements. Rinyald, starting with you.
Yeah, so I mean, I think, the aim of getting rid of fraud, waste, and abuse, I think, is probably noble. I think there's certain things that DOGE may want to do that could be noble, but I think that the way that it was sold was probably dishonest. I think that the idea of cutting fraud is probably not borne out. It doesn't seem like DOGE is any more effective than the Office of the Inspector General at doing it. It seems like they're actually probably way less effective in doing it. There's questions about legality. There's questions about data integrity. There's questions about, how much DOGE is even going to be costing us in the long run. We already know that the OIG has a 26-to-1 return on investment. It just doesn't feel like the need for DOGE, like the question of what do we do about fraud, waste, and abuse doesn't mean that any answer is going to be satisfying. And I don't think that DOGE is a satisfying answer.
Thank you, Rinyald. Classy to you.
Yeah, so I mean, I think like our interlocutors basically answered our question, which is the fact that DOGE didn't fulfill a promise. They didn't get the 2 trillion or even the 1 trillion that was supposed to be cut. I think that by design, DOGE was never actually like meant to look out fraud because they just don't have the capability to do that. That's why we have the Office of Inspector Generals, which already have thousands of civil law actions and criminal prosecutions from their agency just from last year alone, and then that's not including their entire run that they've had here. So I think that those is doing more harm than good. I think their ultimate goal is to discourage federal workforce and to basically just has just another way for like Elon Musk and his billionaire friends to like profit off in the private sector. Thank you.
Thank you, Classy. Grid to you.
Yeah, so I'm just gonna repeat what I said at the beginning. For the most part, DOGE has met every or is meeting all of the metrics that it was established to do by executive order. Campaign promises are campaign promises, and I mean, I would love to see $2-3 trillion trimmed out of the budget. Honestly, to me, I think that'd just be a drop in the bucket. I don't see why we can't get there. It may just be that they can't get to it in enough time because of all the opposition to it, which is fine. DOGE has a path, a course that it's going to run, and it's doing what it's supposed to do. It's being successful at it. I mean, it is what it is. And you guys kind of both agreed with me on that because you said that you like the idea, you just don't like the campaign promise. Well, sorry, I guess. I don't know. I don't know what to say. There's a lot that was covered that we could talk about later. It'd be really fun. But I think that's pretty much where I'm going to stand pat. I think the biggest issue that most people have is Elon, and Elon is out in, I think, 3 weeks. I think he's almost at the end of his 130-day commitment. So, and then we'll see what really happens. So limited scope means limited scope, and that's what it is. So Pentuple, take it away, brother.
Go ahead, Pentuple. You're muted. I don't know what's happening with your mic.
That's my fault. I'm an idiot. Sorry. So I just want to reiterate that I think holding DOGE to this standard about the promise they made in the rhetoric is a bit childish. I think it's an opportunity to try to kind of posture against it. The role of DOGE and the promise that they need to deliver on, and I think every Trump supporter would understand this, is updating and modernizing our systems to prevent the waste and fraud before it happens. Retroactive fraud is something we are passionate about and we would love to find, but it's not DOGE's purpose. If it was, and that was all they did, having a temporary program come in, find retroactive fraud and leave would be completely pointless. And absolutely, I would consider that a failure of delivering. So it has to come down to improving these computer systems and the networks to prevent these spending errors from happening in the first place. And I think it is important to recognize that the purpose of a system is what it does. It's not how it's sold to you, what promises were made. if DOGE is successful at updating these systems in a way that does prevent fraud, waste, and abuse, if they do find fraud, waste, and abuse, it doesn't matter how it was sold, what promises were made. What matters is the tangible output of that system. So I think they are delivering on that.
Okay, thank you, gentlemen. And I have officially dropped the link into the chat. If anybody would like to start coming backstage, now is your time. A lot of super chats came in for me this evening because, as some of you are aware, it is my birthday, and I am here streaming with you all. That's how you know you're getting old, when you don't celebrate. Yeah, this is the
Happy birthday
show. Thank
Happy
you.
birthday.
Happy birthday.
Happy birthday, Sarah. I'm surprised you're not in Asheville with the big debate crew.
No, that would have been for me. That would have been a lot harder to get that to happen with. Especially, I've utilized the kids' weekends at Pop too much recently, so I was like, I'm gonna have to pass on this one. So, and it was like it would have been like an 8-hour drive. So,
yeah, I've got to get back to James at Modern Day Debate. He sent me an email this week about DebateCon, and I've been so busy with everything else. My week turned to like garbage already.
I know that feeling every week. Literally, I wake up and I'm like, shit, all this stuff I was supposed to get done did not get done. So Monday is always another week. So Powder Dusty in with the big 50 to say happy birthday. Our little OX Cat XO with another 50 to say happy birthday.
Kissy Cat.
Huh?
I call her Kissy Cat because I don't like to say the XO whatever.
Oh, Kissy Cat. I like that.
Yeah, that's Kissy Cat.
Josh with the big 5 says, why is Grid 1 always so wrong? Everyone in the orgy was an employee. Outsiders weren't paid to come in. Nobody was fired because they resigned first. That's
not actually true, but it's fine. I had to look. I posted that I would look back into it, and they were hiring people. They were calling it therapy sessions.
Ew, really?
Yes, really. And they weren't the only ones. The interesting thing is that the one that I used, the Mountain Home, they were just one of many VA hospitals doing this. This is apparently like a real thing in the VA hospitals. I actually have a clip. Do you want to play a clip? I got a clip.
Shoot it over to me. We'll play it after we hit over.
This is, let me find it. Where did I put that?
Skizzy with the big 20 says, happy birthday. I just found your channel recently. Why do your intros go so hard? Thank you. I hear a little on both sides. Some people complain and some people love them. You either love the intros or you hate them. If you hate them, fuck you. I love my shit. I work very hard to make them. Shove off.
Right. Get them. Get them.
Jess Gerald in with the, and I wanted to know why, Jess, 127.22. Why that number? Is that meaningful to something that I'm not thinking about? In with that amount for the Mater family. Thank you. And I will be using that amount tomorrow to take my children out for a birthday dinner tomorrow, and it'll be enjoyable.
Awesome.
Frito.
Thank you, just Gerald. Thank you.
Says, happy birthday still, Sarah. Thank you. We have been pre-grifting my birthday this whole week. Plumpy in with the big 5 says, happy birthday. Thank you, Plumpy. And Naomi with a big 10 says, Dono train for the Queen's birthday. That's right. I am the Tomato Queen. And there was only one question in there for you guys, which means I'm more important than Doge. How do you feel about that?
True.
Pretty accurate. Yep.
Yeah.
I think that's fair. All right. I've got a full panel backstage waiting to come on, so I'm not
going to Sarah.
I
think you have it now. This is funny.
I'll do open panel and then we'll bring that up. We'll start off with that. All right, here we go.
Hey, look.
That is so cool.
I have to say, Pentuple's back there jamming out to that one as well.
Yes,
It's
we love
hilarious.
it. We love it.
Good. I like it. I'm glad there's an audience out there that does. All right. So, rules for engagement on open panel dumpster fire. If you hear my voice, which you won't hear it often, but if you do hear it, what does that mean for you? Anybody answer?
To talk over you really loud and be obnoxious and try our best to get heard over you, right?
What he said. That guy.
I will happily accept the answer of shut the fuck up as well. That works too.
I have a public service announcement for that.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah. I'll give you that too. Give me a second. I'll give you that.
I hate to do this.
That. They all think it's you, by the way. Everybody thinks that I got you to do this.
Although I have an important birthday announcement real quick. Birthday song. Hope your birthday smile lasts long.
Aw. What's that, Pentuple?
I hate to do this to you because I do want to stay, but I think I do need to call it here. Unfortunately, I do. I have work. I have a 9 to 5, and it sucks. But
I do as well.
Thank you for having me.
Mm-hmm.
I hope you.
Man, thanks for
being
being here, man. Appreciate it.
I can't be up too much. It was awesome talking to you guys. Shout out to Grid. And again, just thanks for having me. And also, intros, so cool, awesome. Got to give you props for those.
Much. I appreciate that, Pentuple. And have a lovely evening. Thank you for coming on tonight. We appreciate you.
Thank you. Bye, everyone.
Bye-bye.
Happy birthday.
Right, and thank you. And let's get Duck back up here. And then I'm going to go ahead and
say it right.
Adding this to the screen.
The resources necessary to.
Oh yeah, that is funny.
Is this what you were?
Right. Yeah, that's hilarious.
Wait, is this like a? Are you?
Wait, just to ask,
the volume sucks though.
Like, are you saying this is like actually like a predominant like culture issue, like or is it because of like resources?
Well, what I'm saying is that when something like the VA is
volume's a little low, Sarah.
Yeah, I'm trying to
specific people so that veterans can get care.
Grid, you're beating your microphone and your keyboard.
Yeah, I think Grid, you might need to, because I turned it all the way up on my end. And I think it's on your end that you would have to turn up.
Oh, let me see if I can turn it up on my end more.
Happy birthday.
It's always like stupidly low sound. I've never been able to turn it up at all. I don't know why. Maybe I need to go back there. Anyway, I apologize. It's a good clip because the communist girl talks about how that she didn't file an SA claim against this doctor because they needed the doctor more than her, and she quit. And then she starts talking about paying for sex orgies for VA people and all of that. It's an insane like spiel that she puts out. I just sent you something in Discord. Everybody thinks that this is you, and I got you to do this. So this is a public service announcement from the Raging Tomato. So.
Let's hear it.
Wait, so is that a self-declared communist, or are you calling her a communist?
She's actually a communist.
Okay, so it's
becoming more and more popular.
And what I'm going to do, ladies and gentlemen, is I actually have more good news. Not only did we hit 8K for my birthday as requested, but we also, the gauntlet is officially monetized as well. Nice. So what I'm going to do, the gauntlet is officially opened up. I'm going to drop the link here in the chat momentarily. And if you would all like to kindly make your way over to the gauntlet, I can officially shut down the Raging Tomato side, and we can completely maneuver over to the gauntlet, which is my part of my bigger plan for going forward between cutting the debates off and doing open panel dumpster fire. So I'm going to get that set up in the chat. And in the meantime, whoever wanted to start with some thought processes here, go ahead.
You should play the tip I sent you for the public service announcement.
Oh, you want me to play
I would just like to say really quickly that I'm the only one that brought cake.
Thank you, Effigy. Let me see. Hold on. Oh, you sent it to me on Discord.
Yeah.
Let's see.
Cheating. You don't have to bake tomatoes.
Let's see.
I'm excited to do my first official help Sarah grift on the gauntlet.
Thank you. Let me turn my volume up. Let's see if it comes through.
I'm excited to do my first official.
Everyone does it. Now you can do it too. Shut the fuck up. Shut your mouth. Shut up. Shut the hole in your face. You can do it. Shut up. Shut the fuck
By the way,
up.
We can all hear that.
Yeah, I was playing it in the mic.
Yeah.
Can I go produce something to say?
You should play
The
that
actual
because
topic.
it's awesome.
Ready?
Go ahead, Mel.
Okay, I wasn't sure if we were doing that yet. So I'm actually going off of what Grid kind of pointed out, that most people do actually agree with some sort of way of making the government more efficient. We're okay with that, with the stipulation that it's not a part of a soft coup, right? It's not seeing Trump try to merge the private state with the public, and also trying to get rid of the regulations that makes America a mixed economy, so that way he can have laissez-faire exploitation of the markets.
Probably moving off of Doge a little bit there, but
Are we?
Well, Doge is
Is
part
it
of
part
that.
of waste,
Doge is
fraud,
a
and
part
abuse
of
to
this
install AI systems that monitor employees? Is that waste, fraud, and abuse?
What do you mean by waste, fraud, and abuse? Trump supporters say waste, fraud, and abuse every 5 fucking seconds, and it doesn't fucking mean anything to you people because you guys don't know math.
Amen.
How hard is that? How difficult
plus
is
2
that
equals
when you
5, though,
subtract?
right?
True.
Huh? 2 plus 2 is it's at least the identity of 2 plus 2.
We're gonna get.
Yeah,
we're gonna get this.
are we base 10? Are we using base 10 for starters? We gotta stipulate that, because if we're not using base 10, 2 plus 2 equals something else.
Whatever number file uses.
There's that liberal logic.
Well, I mean, it's also worth pointing
Liberal
out.
logic. What the fuck is liberal
That is
logic?
math.
Where 2 plus 2
base
is
10
just like
math
Stupid
is
train. You guys see the stupid train
Don't
you
have
guys
to
start?
be liberal.
This is incredible.
One at a
This is amazing.
time. And just for the record, so you know, I have Joe Cool hanging out backstage. If you want Joe up on stage, you know what to do. The only 2 or 3 people that cannot be booted from open panel dumpster fire this evening would be Grid 1, Classy Neurotic, and Rinyald. Everyone else is fair game. So hang tight, Joe Cool.
Yeah, I think it's worth pointing out that a lot of the times, like, I was granting it for the conversation.
Sorry, there's probably lag. Oh, sorry, who's talking? I have lag.
That's me.
I know I can't talk over the original panelist, but like, I just want to say real quick, you don't have to be a liberal to understand base 10 or base 2 numerics. You just have to be slightly better than an 8th grader at math.
Okay.
The point that I was making is that clearly you would have to divert what we're talking about to base 10 in order for you to say that. 2 plus 2 equals 4.
That is
You saying that like it's an absolution shows that you don't actually understand that there's other forms of math which can give you different outputs.
That's
I
not
just
at all.
love how
You're
relevant
bringing
this
up
is.
something that
I
wasn't
love the
talking
relevance
about.
of
You're trying to be
conversation.
right in a way when
Kindergarten?
clearly
Are we going
if
back
you go
to
up,
kindergarten to figure any of this out? Do we have to go back to kindergarten to figure this out, or can we have intellectual conversations here?
Well, is that? I mean, is the game? Are we
Clearly, that's not what I was
psychoanalyzing Trump
talking about.
supporters now? Is that what we're? Is that the game we're playing?
Are we shifting?
Yeah, no, I
isn't that the game they're always playing?
Mel, you've got a time out. I'm bringing Joe up. Thank you, Jeremy Ryan. We love you.
Okay, but okay,
you should go.
yeah,
Actually.
sorry. Yeah, so I was granting it for the conversation that like all of the things that Doge was cutting was fraud, waste, or abuse or whatever. I was granting that for the sake of the conversation because I didn't want to get too bogged down. But to be clear, a lot of the funding that they're cutting and the grants that they're canceling and the people that they're firing isn't actually like fraud, waste, or abuse outside of the classification that Musk determined it was, or Doge determined it was, or the president determined it was. Not like the prior ways that we would determine something as fraud, waste, or abuse, as in like it's not going to the place that Congress allotted it.
Yeah, they've redefined those terms to basically mean like the things we don't support.
Yes.
Which is different because
Right.
our government has
Which is
always
also
been a mix
exactly how
of
it
two
was
different
told.
political stripes, and
Which
we've
is-
always accepted that other people do things that we don't like, and
Which,
that we
by the
don't
way-
have to exercise the government of everything the other group has done when we come
Very
to power.
good.
That's new.
That's
Very
the
good.
reason why, like that, I was kind of feigning it. The reason why that they're getting rid of the inspector generals is because they're nonpartisan, and Doge is partisan, and Doge is going to make partisan spending cuts, and the
Right,
OIGs
you're not
wouldn't.
partisan.
Congress actually
not.
vote on most of these things, or were they just stuck in pork barrel bills and passed through under the radar?
What kind does that have to do with any of
You
this?
understand what pork
That's
barrel
like an
means,
actual
though, right?
question.
You understand how the government works.
That's not
Like
rhetoric.
people come in and get
So
things.
we're going to back up and redefine the government in order to
Well,
try
no,
to.
I'm just to understand basic politics, right? You
One at a
understand that for people
time,
to vote for
one
things,
at
they
a
have to be promised
time,
things, right?
One
No.
at a time, please. I can't
I'm just wondering
hear
about the
anything.
basics. You get that people have to be promised things to vote for things. Like this is how politics has worked since time immemorial, right? So whenever you say pork belly, it's really just comes down to people getting promised things so that they will vote for things, which is how it's always worked.
Sounds like politics.
So one person's pork belly is another person's needy project in their district, right? So like this idea that anything you don't like is pork is exactly what we're talking about.
I'm talking about the things that passed under, like, what do they call it whenever they just extend the previous? Not the executive orders, when they just extend the financing of something without actually looking at it. I can't remember. I'm about to go look it up.
You're
Talking
on
about
it,
like
too.
funding bills.
I mean, we can all agree that politicians are usually lazy. That's
Right.
I think we can all
That's
agree
where I
with
was going with it, really.
Okay, so I have a question for Grid. And
Okay.
correct me if I'm wrong, because it's such an absurd statement that I feel like I
Sure.
might have misheard it. Did you say that you don't find it plausible that if we cut IRS funding, that they would potentially collect less in tax revenue? Like what?
Yeah, actually, that's not what I said. What I said is that you couldn't prove to me by cutting a large percentage of IRS that we would not actually see an increase in efficiency. You can't prove to me that we wouldn't do that.
I'm pretty
What do you
sure
mean by
verbatim.
prove?
Well, I'm pretty sure verbatim you said that cut because I brought up cutting the IRS workforce is going to reduce our ability to collect taxes, and you rejected that.
Yeah, because we don't have people going door to door to collect taxes. We haven't for like 20 fucking years. I mean, that doesn't happen.
Wait, part of a reason why that is, though, is because we have such a high voluntary compliance rate, because people know that if they try to cheat on their taxes,
That's not an
they're
argument
gonna
against
get caught.
Specific ones that they
Literally
want
make
to
other arguments for
Could I finish my argument?
One
I
at
love
a
it when people make my
time,
argument for me.
please. One at a time.
We do
Go
know
ahead.
the throughput of the IRS, though, right?
Go ahead,
Like, we know that-
Nanzan. I
Yes,
want
it
you to
is.
finish it.
Good on, fine.
Yeah, so if there are IRS tax cuts, people believe that they are more likely to get away with cheating. That means more people cheat, so you reduce the voluntary compliance rate. And by the way, that causes a vicious cycle, because if there's more people cheating, that means everyone else now has a higher chance of getting away with their cheating, because the IRS is already strained trying to catch the current cheaters, and you don't capture a lot of revenue because of the like voluntary compliance. And like we do have empirical
Hold on.
of the
Don't
effect
just
of
yell out the way.
Okay.
Come on a little bit. Come on back.
All right.
Let's break that down a little bit, non-fine, because you're onto something, but I don't think it's going where you think it's going to go. First of all, absolutely, sure, people are going to cheat at their taxes. I don't believe that just because there are less physical employees at the IRS, that more people are going to feel emboldened to cheat on their taxes than did before. That's like saying by having less. By putting more cops on the street, more people are less likely to do crime, and that is factually inaccurate. We know, we have the studies to prove that. So that's really, come on, man, you're better than that.
You'd have to use.
But I have studies that show that
Penalty.
voluntary compliance does drop when you.
Guys, calm down. The second thing, because this, I gotta, like you went to town there. The second thing is that even if they are going to cheat on their taxes, we don't have people manually inspecting these tax forms anyway. It's a computer that does it and spits it out and hands it off to somebody, which by the way, that those people are so, like, I wouldn't say bored, but they have so little to do. They're literally prosecuting people for no reason. I myself have had dealings with the IRS where they cost me a shit ton of money to prove that I didn't do the thing that they said I did. And so you will never be able to convince me that the IRS is even a viable agency. It is literally the worst agency.
Grid, I got to ask you something.
Okay.
I got to ask you something. So if you have a subjective opinion about a government agency that's responsible for collecting however many hundreds of billion or trillions in dollars a year from multiple different types of individuals and tax entities, or corporate entities, and regulating all this. So is there a difference? I'll just ask it this way: is there a difference between, say, someone like you and Senator Bernie Sanders or Barack Obama?
What?
What's the what? What was incoherent?
Well, first of all, subjective. Literally, most of my opinions about the IRS are going to be subjective, so I'm not really sure what you were.
Okay, that's cool. That's it. Sorry, I didn't mean to.
Wait, I mean,
show. My bad.
Well, I mean,
didn't
one thing.
Understand it either.
One thing I would want to
quick, if Grid's whole thing is like, oh, I can't prove that, if we cut the IRS spending, the government's not going to somehow imagine.
You're asking about his opinion.
What's your definition of prove? It's weird when he's saying like my entire opinion on the IRS is subjective based on my personal experience.
That's
but like
how
somehow,
opinions
which
work.
I way, I do have studies that I can show you that
that's
show
how
that
opinions tend to work.
Well,
I mean, I don't base my opinion on the IRS based on my experience with the IRS.
Okay,
I
great.
base my opinion on the
For
IRS based on the data, based on the
That's
studies.
awesome.
I can show you that
I'm
show
happy.
that cutting
You
IRS
should.
does
I mean,
actually reduce voluntary compliance.
I am certainly fucking glad that that non-fawn is absolutely not basing his opinion on the IRS on subjectiveness.
Generally speaking, if you cut half the employees from a company, it does not do better. Generally speaking, that holds true. Yeah.
Well, real quick. So the thing I want to point out is that there's a memo going. There's a memo going around the IRS saying that there's going to be high-level cuts for taxpayer compliance employees. So I don't know like what else they would like. The employees are literally dedicated to taxpayer compliance. So if we're cutting those employees, then we're probably not going to have as much compliance with tax laws. That's just like necessarily A follows B.
No, it's not.
And then the second thing is that like it's fine. It's fine if you want to base your opinions on a particular thing based off of your personal experience. That's chill. But I mean, don't use that experience to argue against somebody who's coming with like data or facts or like
Nobody's giving you
provable things
or facts. It is, however, a fact that corporations spend millions of dollars a year on efficiency experts to reduce their workforce and enhance efficiency. They don't hire more people. They reduce the number of people and make sure that the jobs assigned get done. And this is what our government needs. We don't need to throw manpower at it. We need efficiency. We need people to understand their fucking
Where is the
job.
government wasteful or inefficient? Wait, I have an honest question.
Can I just finish up on the IRS real quick? Okay, thank you.
Yeah, good.
So, can we both agree, hopefully we can, that if we're firing high levels of tax compliance employees within the IRS, that tax compliance is probably going to go down or no?
No,
I can't. I mean, I can't prove that one way or the other, and I don't think
you realize studies are not real life, and data is not.
I mean,
reality.
you can throw it.
Those numbers are data.
You're not going to my mind.
It just doesn't follow that less employees. It doesn't change the penalty of any of the things. So if you get your numbers wrong,
less than an ability to audit people.
Hold on.
I
Just a big shout out to Jess Gerald, gifting 20 tomato memberships. He said that there wasn't enough green in the chat, and so he wanted to turn it green. Thank you, Jess, to you. And if you're still watching on the Raging Tomato side, you had best head over to the Gauntlet now, because I am shutting down the Raging Tomato side, and we will all continue watching over on the Gauntlet. So move your asses. There's still 150 of you watching over on Tomato side. Move your asses over, or else you're not going to be watching anytime soon. I'm going to drop the link in the chat one more time, and then I'm going to end that side of the stream. It will raid you over to the Gauntlet. So choose now or be forced. All right. And
so we're just getting there, guys. Hop on over. It's going to be a good show. I promise.
So the one more question. I'm sorry. So I mean, I feel like this is super applicable. Like, if we were to fire like 80% of the police officers, would you not expect crime rates to go up?
Do you know how crime rates are tabulated?
An efficiency expert is not going to say.
You literally asked me, would they go up? I'm asking you, do you know how they're tabulated?
That's not an answer.
I'll give you an answer. Yes, it would, but it's not the same thing.
Okay.
It's a bad analogy.
Do you understand how they're tabulated?
You need an officer to make an arrest. You can
multiple
people.
It doesn't mean crime went up.
Get rid of the tax compliance people from the IRS, then who's going to enforce tax compliance?
The ones that stay. The point is, there's too many already.
Okay, well then the cops that stay.
No, stop. Pause, as my buddy Fabian Liberty says. Pause. Fucking idiot. dude, the crime rate is tabulated by the number of crimes reported and nothing else. Not how many people are caught, not by actual crime, not by convictions, strictly the number of people who say a crime has been committed. That's the crime rate. That's why it's the worst.
I just asked a hypothetical. All right, I just asked a hypothetical. I don't need
Yeah,
to.
you
We
understand-
don't need
you
to get
understand
into
what's
the
being asked.
hyper specific things. Yeah,
But your hypothetical is a flawed hypothetical.
Sure, fine. But even so, it still doesn't make the point because you need an officer to make an arrest where that officer is doing the arrest. You can't make any other arrest, and that's
Well,
not
I
the
mean-
case with an IRS agent. I don't even know
Right.
exactly how it works, but I know that you can't. It's not just one person.
Wouldn't the
to every
20% of the
American.
officers? Wouldn't the 20% of the officers left behind also just enforce the law? Why would we need the 80% that we laid off?
No, because then they will, while the 20% are doing arresting, then all the other people who are doing crimes don't have anybody there. That is not the same
Yeah,
with
that's
the
the whole
IRS.
point. Those lines
It's
outlined.
not the
Yeah,
same
thank
thing.
you.
Is the point? That's the point. It's a bad analogy.
Okay. I think
A
that that was
police
a
officer
bad
and an
analogy.
IRS
If people
officer
think
are not
they're-
the
if
same
people-
thing.
I think
It's a
that was a
different
perfect
job.
analogy. But all right.
Hold on.
So maybe I can make the same point with the budget, right? Because we know that the IRS has the throughput of whenever we put in $1 for auditing or enforcement, we get like 5 to 7 times back. So maybe through that kind of budgetary means, we can show you that if you were to cut IRS people, which that's all the money for the IRS goes to is just people, right? If you cut that, then it would get less, like just by its
FG.
own throughput of money.
It's so amazing that like suddenly the IRS comes up and you're magically thinking like a Democrat now. I don't know how that transfiguration like took place, but it's
Wait, what?
like
Did
bravo.
you think
Yeah,
I
he
was
is
a
a
Republican or
Democrat.
something?
He is a Democrat.
He is.
Yeah,
Dude, I'm an atheist liberal. What are you talking about?
Out of it.
My arm would fall off if I voted for a Republican. Okay.
That's my.
I'm sure that's what
Oh
they
man!
did.
All right. Well, hold on. I'll answer that. Some of the IRS. So sure, the reason, but it can be argued, and I think successfully, that the reason that you get such high throughput, if you will, from the IRS is because people don't fight the IRS as much as they should, because it costs thousands upon thousands of dollars, and people will just pay. I'm
agree.
that myself. As a matter of fact, I've spent every year. I left California in 2017. Every fucking year, I still get a bill from them for a property, and I've called the tax guy up and said, "Look, not only did I never own it, I rented it. Not only that, but it's a parking lot now. There's no fucking building there. It's a parking lot." He's like, "Yeah, I know. I drive by there. I still have to send this out."
I gotta go.
Don't
I
talk
gotta
to me
go.
about
I appreciate
fucking
you.
government efficiency.
Hold on,
This is the dumbest
Let him
ever.
make his exit, please. Go ahead, Renaud.
Yeah, I gotta go. I'm sick, so I gotta go to bed. I appreciate you letting me on. I appreciate you hosting. I appreciate Grid you coming on. I appreciate Classy you putting
Hey,
me
no
in
hard
contact
feelings,
and
by the
being
way.
my partner. No, it's never hard feelings.
Awesome, dude.
Yeah, non-Fonz the goat.
True.
And thank you, Rinyald. And any of my mods could drop his link in the chat. That would be very helpful as well. And Tiki
I'm not
Tack.
much longer for the world, so if anybody wants to try and pick on me, bring it now, because I gotta go. To
I think
bed.
you're short, funny looking, have a bad voice.
Hey, Sarah, I'm gonna
I'm
leave
not
this.
short, motherfucker. I'm taller than well,
Shut up. Go ahead, Classy. You want to make
So-
your exit?
Yeah, so thank you again, everyone. Thank you, Grid, for being my interlocutor. It's really fun. Maybe I'll speak a little bit more next time I do these debates. But yeah, and thanks again, Sarah, the Raging Tomato. Happy birthday, and thank you again for taking the time to moderate for us. And everyone else, have a good night.
You as well.
You're always welcome. Thank you, Classy. And Tiki Tack sending in the big 50 just to tell me happy birthday. Thank you so much, sir. I appreciate you. All right. Let's see where
All
we
right,
are.
Grid. USAID, since you don't have much time, okay?
Yeah. Let's go.
I will.
USAID.
I'll do more reading on USAID someday. But what I think is great about USAID is that the best programs it does are like way more effective than like the average and median program. So like even if the top 1% of USAID programs are like really good, even if they do a bunch of other stuff you don't like, it seems like this really good thing they do could outweigh the other bad programs.
I couldn't find that when I did the research. when I looked into the research, they've been investigated multiple times by multiple agencies in congressional hearing after congressional hearing. I can't find anything good. I mean, I see where things are
PEPFAR, easy PEPFAR. It's like the easiest. Like PEPFAR has saved probably 20 million lives.
All the starving kids and shit.
Food aid, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, that's something another. Sure, okay, but the amount of fraud, the amount of
you would agree saving 20 million lives is a really, really good thing, right? Like, that is a really good thing.
I'm sorry, what? I didn't hear you because I was talking.
You would agree saving 20 million lives is like just a really, really good thing, right?
Is it strictly because USAID?
It basically, yeah. That's one of their biggest programs.
No. Is it strictly because USAID? Is there no other program that now that USAID doesn't exist are now 20 million people going to die?
Potentially, yes. Actually, I think the estimates it depends on how you estimate it, but I think from PEPFAR alone, yeah, I think it's actually 25 million could die in the next 15 years. I think is one estimate.
Why?
Like, yeah.
Why?
Because people don't have access to PEPFAR, which stops a lot of like babies from getting AIDS.
In where?
In developing countries where they don't have access to HIV medication. It's really expensive.
Where we don't know that the money's actually ever spent, right?
We do know that it's. What do you mean? We absolutely do know that it's spent.
Because USAID, literally, in all of these programs, they always get caught saying they spent 20 million, 15 million, 30 million, 100 million. They always get caught with unaccounted for funds. And I got to tell you, the organization, USAID, was just terrible. Absolutely terrible. Right. And there is more evidence that it was a CIA slush fund account. There's more evidence for that than anything else. And you won't even talk about that.
I don't know how you live with yourself.
Wait, hold on. I can't talk about that.
Wait,
so
one second.
You're going too hard, buddy.
On. Go ahead, non-fun.
Yeah, that's all it is.
Yeah.
So
Blink,
you're scaring me.
So I mean, it seems like I think people greatly exaggerate the extent to which USAID was like a CIA front, but there were some things that USAID did, especially during the Cold War, that were like bad or were like trying to subtly subvert like communists and like I understand if you're not an interventionist, which I know you aren't, you might not like that. But
No, I don't like anything
20
about
million lives. It's just like a
3 million from malaria alone. They expected to die.
Yeah, the State Department does way more of what Grid's talking about than USAID, like the State Department itself, right?
And I have problems with all. I have problems with all of it. It's not like I limit myself to just USAID.
Okay, great. I wanted to point out earlier because you complained about the IRS and having to pay money for their services, whether or not you agree with their services.
No, I did not say that. I said I have a problem with when they file frivolous lawsuits against people for no damn good reason, and people have to defend themselves in court at their expense, which is never repaid. You have no recourse. Okay. So if you hold on, stop.
I'm sorry I got it wrong. I'm sorry I got it wrong.
You ask me a question, you get the full answer. So in this country, and you can do a bunch of research on this, it's out there, it's readily available. A lot, and I mean a lot of IRS cases where they are investigating tax fraud target people that they know will not fight them in court because they can't. They don't have the money to. And so they roll over and they pay, or they get their assets seized or whatever. And it is a horrible, horrible way to do business. And it's absolutely anti-American is what it is.
I do need to finish my question though. And I'm sorry I got your point initially wrong. I was just trying to be brief. My point that it's more of a point than a question, but it is something I'm hoping you'll respond to. Sorry. Is that what you're experiencing is the sacrifice of the microeconomic good for the macroeconomic good, right?
That's bullshit. Come on, you're an idiot. Don't throw that out there.
Let her finish the thought.
Since you complained about us not knowing where funds go with USAID, we need to keep track of this money, right? And that's what the IRS is here to do. The macroeconomic good is that when we keep track of the money.
Canadian.
I don't understand. I'd like her to continue and finish so I can understand.
The IRS does not do that.
The macroeconomic good, or the good for the system, is more important for the well-being of the nation than your personal well-being and microeconomic good. So I think that's why you sometimes see this as something that's just existing to persecute you, just like how it would also probably seem like to the people who are applying aid in Africa, like persecution, if they had to pay for tracking the USAID's expenses.
I'm not sure where in any of that rambling nonsense there was an actual point, but I'm going to.
No, I restated.
I had to stop and let you talk, so you're going to stop and let me talk. So
no, you're just being bad faith, though, because I restated that it wasn't really a question.
Well, it doesn't matter. You made a point. I'll make a point. None of the things that you said actually apply to what the IRS actually does. And macro is irrelevant when we're talking about literally. The question was the throughput, and the reason behind the throughput for the IRS largely is going after citizens, taxpayers, assets when they believe that there's some sort of issue with their taxes. And most people can't fight it. They're not going after people like Donald Trump. They're not going after people like Jeff Bezos.
You would prefer they do,
those people have very good attorneys, very, very good accountants.
But you would prefer they do.
Rich people are audited more often than poor people, by the way.
I'm interjecting because you have limited time.
Well, let him finish his thought.
No, go ahead and interject.
You would prefer that the IRS does go after the people, because I would agree there. Just by the way,
I would actually prefer a flat tax where we don't have to worry about it.
I mean,
I think the IRS is an agency that has a license to steal from citizens.
Well, rich people would love that.
No one's arguing against that shit.
I mean, honestly, I don't know if that rich people would love that. Yes, I am classified for whatever stupid reason as rich, and I would fucking love it.
It's probably how much assets and money you got.
I would like to.
Well, okay. Also, I mean, just from like, I don't know, a cursory Google glance, I can it seems like rich people are audited more often than poor people. It doesn't seem like the IRS is targeting.
That wasn't
just targeting poor people. Seems like they go after rich people more often.
Are you? I'm sorry, I didn't get to see the whole debate. But are you guys under the impression that we should just leave all of that alone and there's no waste, fraud, or abuse?
No, I don't think anyone is arguing that. And what is all that, by the way? Is all that the IRS?
No, wait. Oh, yeah, no. Just whatever DOGE is the general what DOGE is doing. Are you saying? I was asking. Are you saying that we don't
know doing it in a way that shows they don't care about what they're saying?
I would say, where is the fraud and abuse?
Has everybody just become retarded tonight? I mean, it's been one person talking over another, and I know you all know better. I mean, this is not any of your first time at this panel or on any of the other person's panel either. But it's just incredibly rude, and it's hurting my ears. Plumpy in with the big 5 says some birthday simbucks. Woohoo. Party on. Thank you, Plumpy. And a Dummy Thick with the big 5 says, is this that thing that debated Andrew on WW2 stats? Stick that confused animal thing in the back. Who could take anything it says seriously after that? I'm assuming that's you, Melanie. Throwing you in the back. I've got Harmon Walker up. All right. Whoa.
Hello, chat.
Hold on. Let me.
I'm sorry. Sarah's
Hold on. His mic is like blasting.
Is mine too loud?
It's the background noise. You got like a fan.
I got a fan
behind. Yeah, if you could hit
Let me
that
turn
fan
right
off.
back.
Thank you. All right, go ahead, Greg.
How big is that room? He said, "I'll be right back to turn the fan off." How big is that fucking room?
Just thinking the same thing.
So, I mean, as far as me wanting to pay less taxes, let me roll this out here for you, right? So let's just say not, and I'm going to pick on you for a second, non-fine, because you still got a lot of life to live, right? So let's just say that you made enough money that the federal government taxed you $250,000 in a year. Would you be happy to write that check?
I mean, I don't know how much money you have to make that in order to pay that much in taxes.
$750,000.
I would say like I wouldn't like no one is like happy about paying taxes, but it's kind of separate from the question of whether it's a net good that we tax people.
So if you are good enough at whatever it is you do to make $750,000 a year, you're okay with giving away $250,000.
Well, it's not. So the issue is obviously we're not giving it away. The issue is the point is that the government has that money now and then can spend that money on things that I might really like. And if it's things that I really like, then I probably think it's a net good that it happens. And also, I would also obviously I would say the type of taxation matters too, because I don't think we should tax investment and saving. I think we should tax consumption and resource rents. So obviously the type of taxation matters as well.
That's a really feminine question, by the way, Grid.
And just to let you all know, I have Bane Bear backstage. I have Chairman of the Board and the Powder Dusty. If you want either of those three up, you know what to do. I will bring them up in order of appearance. Bane Bear's first, Chairman of the Board second, Powder Dusty third. So if you get rid of people on the panel, then we can bring the next person up.
I had something. Is my mic better now, Sarah?
Yeah, oh yeah, way better.
I had something to comment from the debate earlier with Grid.
Yeah, man. What you got?
You made some good statements, and I think sometimes naive, but that's just my opinion. But some of the good statements were you can't fire government employees. I was 31 years working in government. We went through 6 audits, and when they come in there and change and fire the positions, all they do is change the name of the job from, like, we had one called yard captain, and they changed it to counselor. All they did is get rid of that position. It shows, okay, you got rid of all these positions with their salaries. Those people never missed a day of work, changed over, and they were yard captains next. And they did it 5 times while I was in for 31 years. So the same thing, this little fat doughboy Tesla guy, whatever his name is, I can't think of his name now.
Elon.
He ain't going in there and firing nobody. It's an all puppet show, in my opinion. And then the only thing I would say, naive a little bit, you got it right on saying IRS steals money from you. All it does is no. All taxes is theft of your money. Period. IRS just enforces it. That's all.
Yeah, I don't disagree with that taxation is theft at all. I mean, look, man, I've never really liked the idea of paying taxes to start with. When I started making actual money, and the amount of money that I pay personally in income tax can employ 3 people in a year, and you expect me to trust that the government is spending that money better than I can? That's insanity.
Is there anyone who believes that we need a bigger government or that we shouldn't shrink the existing government? Do we all agree on that?
No, we
It's
definitely
just-
got.
I mean, and so it's weird because like my position is going to be we should like as a percentage of GDP, I would say we should probably be taxing more. I again just think the type of taxation matters. So I probably want to I think right now we tax like 18% of GDP. I probably want to move that up to 25% or something. But I want to do it in a way that doesn't tax investment and doesn't tax savings like we currently do.
Are you from America?
Grid 1 has spoken. He says effigy. Let's see, effigy, duck, and dragon can take a break. Bring up the 3 alternates. And then I also have Mo Rebuttal.
The house.
I also have Mo Rebuttal just popped up backstage. So he's next in line. And then back to the original Melanie, effigy, and duck after that. So if you want Mo up here, please feel free to do what you need to do.
I'll say one more thing to Grid. Grid, you didn't talk about the job changes. They didn't fire anybody. That's why you can't find anybody rehired, because no one was fired and no one was hired. Do you agree with that analogy that I went through? I've experienced that. That's just my experience.
Yeah, I mean, look, my parents worked for the government for a little while, and my grandmother and grandfather worked for the government like a large percentage of their life, and I saw it go from like not too bad as a child to being absolutely ridiculous. Like people just do ridiculously stupid things, and you just can't fire them. And that kind of culture has to go. Like it just
never will in government. It won't go in government. I
know it's not going to go in government.
Try. Well, good seeing you, Satch, and Joe Cool is always good to see you.
Same.
there's no profit motive in government, so there's no natural force that makes the people involved in the process of government want to do things more efficiently, right? Because they're not going to go out of business if they sit on their hands for a year and don't do anything, right? There's no incentive. And Sarah, I wanted to tell you happy birthday because it's your birthday and you're awesome and you're, you know, I'm not going to simp for you or whatever, but you don't suck at entertaining people. So
I thought you were an icon, bro. I thought you were a black and white photo. You're freaking me out right now.
That's funny. That's funny. What's up, Dusty?
Thank you,
In a
Chairman
minute.
Hanson.
Hey,
Sarah. Remark that
You're muted, Flo.
almost shaved.
Look at him. Yes, this shit all trimmed and shit.
And it wasn't me this time.
Do the balls match the beard?
Whoa.
You've been hanging around us too long, Sarah.
She has. Curtains match the drape there, Dusty.
Right.
You already know they
God,
do.
it's such
Holy
enemy.
hell.
Is your Wi-Fi sucking ball? You know what? Maybe it's your
How am I now?
much better.
That's way better.
Much better. Oh my God, that sucked balls.
I had kind of a delay
He's
though.
been- He's been
Somebody
playing with
pick up
his
at
nuts.
5. 1, 2, 3, 4.
5,
5,
6,
6,
7, 8.
7, 8.
It's balancing.
Yeah, we got you. Yeah, we got you.
3.1.
I had some
It
programs.
might
I had to close.
also, yeah, it also might be doing the local recording. If you click on that little dot, because I've allowed that button. You can probably shut that off if you want.
Oh, I'm out of storage space anyway, so.
Yeah.
Sarah, I'll be quick if you let me go.
Oh.
That's what he said.
Yep. I just wanted to wish you a happy birthday in person. That's all. I just want to say happy birthday. And also, Grid 1, you're a legend. Powder Dusty, you're a legend. Fun. Take your autism. Y'all have a good day.
Thanks, Bane Bear. Shout out to Bane Bear. If any of you enjoy stand-up comedy, he has a show that he does that.
That's cool.
Yeah, so yeah, funny guy.
I love
funny guy.
stand up. Yeah.
Yeah.
Hey,
All
sorry
right.
I'm got popped on here late. I missed the Doge haters. Before I had wanted to engage with them a little bit, but beyond
there's
that,
plenty of them still here.
happy birthday, Sarah.
One of me.
Thank
One of
you.
the debaters is still here.
Okay, so yeah, somebody else take up the mantle. Who hates Doge? I just want to throw a question.
Who hates Doge?
I think it's a great
I don't
idea.
hate it. I'm not a fan of it.
I think it's a great idea, but it's targeting fucking who Trump's want targeted.
Okay.
I just don't think that we should have the biggest government contractor ever in the history of the country, the one in charge of it or
So he
participating.
won't be in 3 weeks.
Yeah.
So
no, I don't. I still can't figure out how this is not illegal. It's such a
Illegal.
massive conflict of interest that it's mind-boggling. But
I don't even know if he signed the contract. He would never say he's the head of Doge because then he'd be able to be held liable. I think they just tricked us somehow and had dude in charge.
He's carried as a special government employee. He's unpaid, and he has a 130-day contract. I get commitment. I don't know that there's a
so
contract.
he got a loophole to be able to do something he shouldn't be doing.
Yeah. Can I hold him accountable? Can I sue him at the end of all of this shit? If he was a government employee, then I should be able to get his personal records
It doesn't
right
matter.
now.
He doesn't have to do
Doge,
anything wrong. Just the fact that he is in the position he is a conflict of interest. He could be totally great and do nothing wrong, but the conflict of interest.
Using that
be
logic,
fine.
none of the
So if it was someone else, you'd be fine then.
Congress should be in Congress, right? Because there's all kinds of people with conflicts of interest in Congress. I agree with you though. We should go to Congress.
I mean, you'd have to be more specific. Most of the people I've brought up the conflict of interest to have said things like, "Yeah, but Nancy Pelosi makes money too," and I'm saying, well, I understand Nancy Pelosi is corrupt, but a conflict of interest is different from corruption, right? So I don't know. There probably is a bunch of conflicts of interest. I don't.
Yeah, there's more.
If it was not Elon
of interest in a congressperson going to bat for corporations and making millions of dollars off.
Yeah,
of that.
when they have all this stock in a corporation or joint
I
with
think
this
that's a much
corporation, and they
larger
make the law. Yeah.
I don't
That's
think
a
it's a much
conflict.
larger conflict of interest. You're definitely choosing favorites, but I see your
It's a
point.
wash job.
Well, I don't care which congressperson it is. If they're making money off of insider trading or even
Again,
one of
that's
the
a
big
different thing, though. Insider trading is a different thing from and I know that you know this, Grid. So stop acting stupid.
Well, all right, even if it's
can't
getting
sue the
military
IRS either.
bases in their area, right? Like even if it's like, and this is the one that like used to be a big East Coast thing. I'm tired. I'm lacking the fucking state, but I think it was maybe Virginia. They were going to move like a shipyard or some shit, or maybe it was Chesapeake. It doesn't matter. And like the entire reason that they ended up voting in their Congress people was on the idea that they were going to go to bat and keep those military contracts. And they
happens all the time.
This is all whataboutism.
But it
Basically.
happened. It didn't. What about it?
Okay.
No. So the question is then,
history
where
can't be a
were
lot
you
about
when
it.
that was all going on? It's only when it's something that doesn't help you when you're.
I don't give a
married.
fuck if you think that I'm obligated to address every conflict of interest that
That's
happens.
not what I said.
Where was I? I was nowhere. I'm indifferent to it.
Okay,
Sort
well,
of like
that is precisely the point. And so if you can be indifferent to that, and there's people who are actively saying, yes, this is what we want, this is what we voted for, then
so where were you every time anybody else was slightly hypocritical in their application of their opinions?
Anytime I've seen it, I've covered it. Check the channel out. Indian Jesus live every Monday, Wednesday, Friday, 8 p.m. Eastern.
Indian Jesus.
You have better hair than
what
me.
Jesus is in the internet, I swear.
I don't think I've seen the Indian Jesus before. Maybe I'm just not on here.
That's
late
the new one. I've seen the Mexican Jesus or two.
I think I'm normally in bed by now because old.
Because you're old, yeah.
I am old.
Actually, that is actually the real Jesus. I just talked to him on the phone. Yeah.
Oh my God!
If he was the real Jesus, he
still
wouldn't be the
hating,
father.
still hanging backstage. I have animated effigy. I have duck, and I have dragon rage waiting for you fine people to spare them.
Well,
or revive them.
I got to peace out. I would love to keep going back and forth with
You're
everybody.
running because you know I got you on the fucking rope.
Rage quit.
Rage quit.
It's okay. I would run too.
I'll just go back. I'll just go to sleep. I'll sleep quit right here. Like,
Sleep quit.
It's pretty
Go to
comfortable.
sleep on.
We call it
On the
quiet
panel.
quitting.
I'll quiet quit.
Quiet quit.
You
Indian
scored?
Jesus, you should come over to the channel sometime and hang out. We'll chat. Mo, everybody. Non-fun, you're welcome too. You never come up on stage, man. What's up with
Listen, listen. Okay, Easter was not a good weekend for your stupid, not stupid. Sorry, your single.
Jeez.
Oh, me, man. Damn.
Brutal, right?
That was rough.
He looks young and innocent, but he'll cut you.
I did like
Blade.
Grit. Even though it was totally rigged, I did like your competition show, and I'm wondering when you're going to do the next one.
It was not rigged. We do it every Saturday night, except this past Saturday. I was fucking tired. I had to be up at like 4:30 that morning, and I was
Dude,
like, I'm not
you wouldn't
fucking
believe how many DMs. You wouldn't believe how many DMs I got though. That's like they were like, you totally won that second one. I'm just saying. I'm not bitching. I'm just saying. People disagree.
How many?
I'm going to be honest. Yeah, I'm going to be honest with you. I did. I'm not going to do. So are you talking about the second one against you and Ben? Because
I
Ben
forget who it was against. but
trying to be he was just fucking trolling. He wasn't even debating. Like I did not agree with that either. But the judges spoke, and the judges are the judges.
Mhm.
Take it up with Anson. He's sitting right there.
Anson.
What I
It's
didn't
your
do
show,
it.
though. I'm not saying. I'm not even saying to change it. I'm saying I like it. I'm just saying.
Yeah, no,
When's the next one going to
it's
be?
a cool format. I'm refining the format a little bit. So, and I hate shilling my shit on Sarah's show, but
No, go for it.
you asked.
Who would do that?
You literally have Indian Jesus right next to you, shamelessly plugging his shit.
Well, I don't.
I don't know what you're talking about.
I really
yeah.
wanted to say pause.
Pause. Fabian Liberty does that all the time.
So that I can
rhythm,
still
the
look
rebel.
powdered dusty.
You can do that. I love Fabian Liberty. I wish he'd come on my show more often, but his schedule's like way different than mine. Yeah, so it's a single round elimination, round robin debate panel, a lot like VK, but without the circus act. I'm just saying. I don't. I don't play a clip every time somebody gets eliminated. Come back up if you want.
That was some verbal combat right there.
Hey man, it's too late for me to be polite. If you haven't noticed, I've been getting progressively less polite.
You wanted to fight. That's why you stayed up here, man.
I'm tired. I got to go to bed. I got to get up fucking early in the morning. And I got a bunch of business shit I got to do tomorrow.
For what? I got a $20 bounty on my bottle of rum. It's not getting open until somebody pays for it.
For what? So if I wanted to bitch about the government right now, I couldn't, because the government is actually not my biggest problem right now. It's morons. Morons are everywhere, and we can't get rid of them. They breed apparently overnight, and they infect other moronic thoughts as well. I have this. So we had this deal all flowing together, right? It's like $380,000 for this business that's worth right about $380,000, and we could turn that. We could I could make that into something that would make way more money. But the problem is they're in a building, and the rent's been the same since like 2002. And it was fine because the old lady that owned it was cool with it and all that. But as we're getting ready, as we're finishing due diligence, the building gets sold. And now it's going to go to $12,000 a month instead of $3,000 a month rent. And
you deserve that, man. Didn't you just say you procrastinated all that time? You
sucked all the money out of the deal. And I'm like, the fuck? Like, so now I've got to figure out. We're in damage control. We got a lot of money invested in this deal already. So
that sucks.
Yeah, it's business, man.
Would fix this.
People think business is like buying a business is like pretty easy, or what do you just get, write somebody a check or some shit. But no,
I'm not sure anybody is under that illusion, Greg.
The people that get paid are the lawyers. Every time I fucking send a letter, the lawyer gets paid. Every time I need a letter read, that fucker gets paid. Gets paid for reading my fucking mail. How about that?
Read this one for me, Grid. Read this one for me.
Keep on trucking. K2, what's up, buddy? I haven't seen you in a while. $5 from him comes in. Happy birthday, party cake, tomato, and left tomato.
He's good at that. I didn't expect that.
That's good.
You're hired, Grid.
You
get stream elements. We have Grid 1.
He's going to downsize me anyway, so don't worry about it. I'm going to get downsized.
Yeah, I want to audition for this role too, please.
Grid, anytime you want to come on and read my super chats, I'll give you 10% cut.
Okay, now you're all making me jealous. Fuck this.
I'm all over that. 10% is 10%, baby.
I'm getting jealous. I actually love reading super chats, and you all deny me this opportunity.
Mel, you're fired.
All right, I'm out of here.
You can't fire me. You're all hired.
Everybody on the stage is cool except Mel. Mel, you got to get back to being cool. Try harder or try less hard. I'm not really sure which right now. But like I said, just try and be cool. I got to go. You guys have a great rest of your night.
Who needs to try to be cool?
Thank you, Grid. Thanks for doing the debate. I appreciate having you on.
I do also have
Mel,
to
you just
run.
hold
Hold on. Shut up.
I think my dog's going to crap himself if I don't go, so I do also have to run. But thank you so much for
Can you let that happen?
Happy birthday.
Busy Jesus, I'll see you on the second coming, bro. I'll see you later.
There you go. The
That would be
second
really
coming.
good content.
And
Just for your dog shit.
thank you guys. Have a good one.
Bye, Indian. And let's see.
right.
Next up next. And then I've got Dragon Rage and then Grumpelstiltskin up next in line.
Grumble. Love that dude. So funny. Got a toast for you. Actually, it's a quote from Will Rogers. We could certainly slow down the aging process if it had to work its way through Congress.
Yep.
Oh,
No, that's not true.
yeah,
We still don't have
Kissy-
enough medical
Kissy cat.
understanding of it to do that.
Kissy Cat says, "Tell Dusty I'll read his super chats." Hee hee.
Oh, she's got the
Deal.
perfect accent too. She's got that Appalachian West Virginian, sweet as molasses. Man, it's just so fine. She's a perfect ginger.
I
Calm
thought
down,
she was
brother.
a dude. I was talking
It's
to her
not
in the chat.
necessary.
Although
Calm
reading
down,
super chats
Anson.
would be a waste of her PhD.
I got a bad one. Only a simp speaks in those types of tones.
We all wait for
Yeah, right.
education.
That's fair.
So I guess just a question to throw out there then, I guess, for whoever wants to grab onto it. I was going to ask it earlier, but let's say that I grant that the original statement of Doge was just a dirty political lie, right? Like they came in, they stated what they were going to do, and then they fell short.
Okay.
If they do save like $60 billion at the end of the day, would that not be a good thing? Or it's a moral question? Is it
I'd be
morally opposed to
It just depends on
how
where
it's
they
What?
save it and what the potential negative effects are, right? Because if they're saving money by cutting USAID programs that I mentioned earlier, some of those things I think are really morally good, then I'm going to have an issue with it. And
At what cost?
You would agree that like cutting all the money that we spend on the military would be bad for national security, right? But we can say
No. That's the first place those would have went if they were serious. They'd have went.
No,
there
I'm
if
not
they
saying
spent
I'm saying all the money, and this is I'm doing a reductive
yeah.
for who
Okay,
I think it was Mo who asked that by process of elimination. But you would agree that like getting rid of national security and cutting all funding to the military would be bad, right?
well, that's an extreme. All versus some is two different things.
But no, this
Yeah,
is a reductive.
savings.
But and so
I'll
so
engage
the
the
point is-
hypothetical. Cutting all of it would be bad. I'll grant you that. Yes.
And so it's at least fundamentally possible that cutting a certain amount of money just to save money is bad. You have to cut money strategically.
Yes.
Sure. Yes.
Does that make sense? Okay.
Yeah, I mean, I have nothing. I
Our
have
problem
no
with
disagreement with
DOGE
that.
is that the strategy is, and I'm just saying this because as a leftist, I do see this, and I see repeating history in this. It seems that the strategy is a soft coup, not actually making a more robust government.
But I guess the nature of my question was: let's assume that
It actually does.
was good. It was actually good cuts. It was actual waste. Would you have any?
Oh, I missed that part to begin with.
nobody fundamentally disagrees with the mission of getting rid of waste, fraud, and abuse. No, I don't think you're going to find basically anyone who
That's-
disagrees with that. as
That's
being a good
propaganda
call.
talking points that mean nothing, though, right? Well, that's just to
Well,
sell something.
the majority of I was just looking at some of the data. The majority of the cut comes from like contracts being cut and grants, right? So there was a gentleman on here earlier that made the point about no one's going to come in and get fired because they're just going to rename the title and move people around. Which I have seen that in higher, like we've seen examples of that in higher ups. There was some that changed their title like preemptively almost to like get out of like DI for instance.
That
right?
gentleman is over you right now, by the way.
Oh, okay, great. So
And so this is
that,
what I-
but so
oh,
that
sorry, I beg your
really, so yeah, I was just going to make the point that that doesn't really seem to be the bulk of where the quoted savings are coming from. It seems to be
I
coming-
see people crying on the internet all the time about losing their jobs, so they're definitely cutting jobs.
Sure,
Yeah,
but
this
that's
is why
anecdotal
I-
evidence,
yeah,
right? That's not taking into consideration the whole. That's just people crying. People are always going to cry, right? You would agree with that?
Well, I
mean,
was just
what he's
battling the
saying is that
statement
there are
no
people
one
losing
was
their
leaving
Where do
their
people
job.
cry? Do people cry when we invaded Iraq? Do people cry when we had the housing market collapse?
Okay, those are
What
kind of
about
different
Cry and
issues.
it's okay.
That's just whataboutism.
So
The government
no,
doesn't
what
exist.
is
The government
whataboutism?
doesn't.
Hold on, one at a time, please.
Yeah,
This
let
is
Sherlock
why
Holmes
I said
continue his
Chris.
line there.
Yeah, fucking cuck.
Can we
This
just
is why-
can we
this is-
agree though that the proof is in the pudding and that they are obviously not making targeted intelligent cuts when they have to go back and rehire people in multiple instances
I like it.
because they cut
Would you say
people
that
who
that
were
is,
actually
is
necessary?
the overwhelming majority of their cuts, or was that only a fraction of their cuts that they had to do that with?
But it's happening though. If your
No, no.
argument is that they're coming in there with a scalpel,
Yeah.
Do
and
you
they're cutting
acknowledge
people
that?
who like are necessary for like nuclear weapon safety? Like an egregious
You really
error
think
that
like
bad?
our entire nuclear structure safety hinges on?
I'm
a
not
couple
making a
people?
maximalist argument, so stop trying to say that I am. I know right wingers have this problem with always turning arguments into maximalist
Who
arguments.
said I'm a
not
right-winger?
saying that.
Did you agree that
Well, you
most of
sound like one.
those cuts are
We
effective?
sound like you
Did
know
I
what
hear
you're
you
talking about,
say
but I didn't
that?
point that out. Go on.
You didn't say it outright, but Effigy, did you say that? Do you agree that most of DOGE's cuts have been effective, and it's just a few that are going astray?
No, I think DOGE's cuts are mostly arbitrary to the point of being partisan.
Okay,
Like
I agree.
I think they're going after specific programs in a lot of cases that they simply don't like. They're
Clear.
classifying entire things that the left have gone
Exactly.
after to push as labeling as fraud, abuse, or whatever.
Yes, whoever was debating, that should have been your argument. Whoever was up there debating.
Damn, he moved. Who's the guy with the pipe? That gentleman is smoking on my pipe. Obviously, I should have it.
That is
I
a
deserve
that
it
is
more
a
than you.
Clark's
sir.
favorite, my man. That is a
It's
Clark's favorite.
First of all, Joe, there's many ways to skin a cat. I was going to ask some more follow-up questions, such as
Well, a cat or a fox, you know, whichever.
okay, that's just graphic. So, would you let me paint a scenario here, and I would say it is a parallel. The CEO of Walmart becomes president, and to some degree, it's almost clearly stated. You have to read a little bit between the lines, but it's almost clearly stated that he just doesn't like how hard it is to conduct private business within the government because they have so many regulations. Do you think it's fair to assume that somebody who has demonstrated that they operate on the profit motive under capitalism, which as capitalism is, it is a profit motive, that they may be doing that job to seek a further profit motive? Do you think that's a plausible argument?
You mean, are you saying, does crony capitalism exist? Yes, of course it does. That's what you're describing. That's the system we have now.
So how is what Trump and Elon are doing not crony capitalism?
Well, so Elon is losing money doing what he is doing. He is not grifting and gaining wealth. He's risking a ton. He was at the top, right? He was the world's richest man, and he's basically putting himself in a position of exposure politically and alienating a large market share of people who would ordinarily buy the product themselves.
That happened
he's
later.
not benefiting from this.
That's not true.
Benefiting is bad
As
faith.
soon as he wasn't benefiting,
Wait. Are you aware that all of his companies, Tesla, his space corporation, all of them were being investigated? All of those people just happened to get fired under DOGE. All of those investigations went away.
Get him,
Well,
Joe.
good. That's government. They should fire the rest of the people doing
That's crony
investigations so they
capitalism.
stop
No,
harassing other people too. That's a good idea.
But you would admit that if
Government ought to
that's
get rid of
true,
all
he
those
would be
people harassing
benefiting, though,
folks.
right?
I agree.
You would
with
admit that if it's true, your argument about him not benefiting would be wrong, though. Assume it was. I don't know it to be true. Assume it was true.
So government investigations don't mean squat. They've investigated tons of people for political reasons.
That's MAGA support
Okay,
right there.
so that's great, but like you would agree he would still be benefiting from those investigations going away, right?
I was making a financial benefit argument and not a fake investigation
I mean,
argument. We can go down the fake investigation argument if you want to. You
would
want to do that?
the investigations would cost him money.
Still, yeah.
Yeah. Okay. The amount of money that the investigations would cost him is minuscule
understand that,
compared to
like-
the market share of all of the libtards in California who would have bought his electric vehicles had he shut his mouth and kept towing the line that he was doing.
As soon as that stuff happened, he said, "I'm stepping away from Doge and I'm going back to Tesla." Like he literally, as soon as that happened, and also as soon as he didn't get his way with the tariffs that Trump did, which also, had a negative effect on the stock market.
So are you saying that he didn't damage himself by sticking his neck out politically? Are you trying to make?
I think he
You're
did,
making my
but I didn't
argument
think
for
he
me
did.
by admitting that he did damage himself, right?
No, but as soon as he did, he wasn't willing to stick through it or anything. He announced that he was going back to Tesla, and I also think because I think Elon said that he was trying to convince Trump to not go full scale on the trade war thing, and he failed in doing that, which I don't know if he expected to fail in doing that.
And
Yeah.
K2 Keep On Trucking says there's more volume coming in the USA from Canada. Kick Mill for 5. And next in line is Grumple Stiltskin. Then also I have Darth Grumpy Dad hanging backstage. And then next in line from there would be Flow State. You know what to do.
Hey,
Good
Grumpy.
evening. Hey, sexy trousers.
Yeah.
Hey.
I figured Grid was leaving, so you got to have a token like "I hate the IRS" and personal income taxes shouldn't be a thing guy on the panel. So,
Oh, I
agree.
yeah, Grumble, Grid is a typical small business owner.
I just want to point that out for the folks that are in the chat that, like, you know, small business owners, of course, because they have to pay taxes, they're always going to complain about taxes. And then, you know, it's on to the next thing, right? It's like ice cream. You know, if someone else has a bigger ice cream bowl than you,
wouldn't
like,
wait, is there a department of taking part of your ice cream?
Wrong, but you don't plan
Did
anything.
dude fall out in somebody?
You-
What happened up there on the left?
Although the tomato's looking pretty spicy
Wow.
there.
What the hell?
That's
I
nice.
think he got attacked by a rabbit
Those are
raccoon
some
or something.
strong ass
If you
legs.
need help,
Hey,
right?
tomato never
I
skips
might need
like
a
that.
minute. That's like Chun Li plus like the green M&M
Right,
mushed into a tomato right
jams are
there.
serious, bro. Like I like those legs.
Chun Li thighs right there, y'all. That's crazy.
I'm sorry. I was wanting to point out that duck only plans for 24 hours. Anything past 24 hours doesn't exist as far as duck's concerned. So keep that
That is
in mind.
clearly a lot lizard tomato, Sasquatch. That is clearly lot lizard.
That is just my type of tomato. Do you see?
That's 3:30 in the morning in the back of the hotel. That's what you see.
I don't care if it's last call out bar, bro. That is a nice tomato.
Okay.
Sorry, I just wanted to kind of throw to the previous statement about him being a business owner. Wouldn't business owners be more in touch with having employees, hiring? Wouldn't small business owners be more in touch with how crazy and crappy taxes
That's a
are?
great
and-
question.
I like that.
That's a great question. So small
Wow.
businesses in the United States have such a low barrier to entry. And that's why we have so many great small business owners in the United States, because almost anyone can start a business. But it's like anything else. It's, you know, you're going to find people who are business savvy, but they're not all expert marketers. They're not all accountants. They're not all they're not all proficient at finance, which is different from accounting. So there's a lot of factors to consider. But
Right.
like
That's why
what about-
most businesses fail, right? So when you
Just
have
as-
someone who has a successful
well,
business
because
like
people
Grid,
are retarded.
you
That's-
might
it's
want to
because
listen to
people
what he
are
has to say.
retarded, is why most businesses fail.
As a really quick
Well,
item on this,
I would
if
understand
you
listening to
wanna
the grid
start a
when it comes
business-
to like.
No offense.
Just one
That's what
moment,
it-
not fun. There's a lot of companies out there that help people register LLCs, and you got to figure out what you want to register. But there are a lot of them out there under $500 in most states. If you got an idea or you want to do like corp to corp contracting or whatever, it's not that difficult to start a business. Like to just register one, it's very not. I just
Yeah,
like
but that's not
I got a
starting
preset
a
for
business.
PSA out there. I'm sorry, not fun. Please continue.
And
that is pretty
William says to send
It's
back
registering
the other tomato. I'm assuming that's the
Lot lizard, right?
thick-thighed lot
Yeah.
lizard tomato to the
Oh,
back,
no.
and then also rude mud crab choosing to pull up powder dusty. Or wait, and then I also have, but I need Flo for you to pick another person that's getting booted, because Rude said you could boot somebody.
Oh, Flo has power. Watch out.
Oh no. Can you drop it down so I can see the names of everybody?
What is this? Like, you don't know who these people are?
Let's
I can
see.
forgive that.
Who's off limits?
Everybody's open.
Yep. Okay. God damn it! Give me Dragon Rage.
He just got here.
I know, but his camera's off.
Hello.
And
I was
I know
hoping he
Joe-
got mail for Dragon Rage. That would have pissed him off. I was hoping mail popped up.
Hello.
I would.
Good evening. You're also a grump, I see.
Yeah.
Hi. I've met
I
your
get my
type
own voice
before.
over the headphones, so I wasn't sure if it's working.
Can we
I'm
get a
new to
date-
this, if you can't
get a date-
tell.
Date time. These two need to like compare notes. They need to,
There can-
add to grumpy lore.
There can be only one. I think y'all got to fight to the death right now.
Yes. Let's make them do it.
Oh God, what are we fighting over? Oh,
Just pick a top.
So
Oh.
Highlander, was the original series better or the? There can be only
yeah,
one.
the first movie was definitely better. It was way
mean, that-
better.
yeah,
way
that's-
classier.
That's true.
Yep. Even though the Scottish guy pretended to be an Egyptian, kind of like with a British accent on top. I mean,
What do you think about? I don't want to say. Wait, soyka. No, that's probably a bad term to use. Actors who are like very anti-gun, being like badass characters in movies, like Liam Neeson.
So the whole
Bruce Willis.
point was for you to fight over who's the better at being grump. Okay, you got
Oh.
Grumpelstiltskin and Darth Grumpy.
I'm also a dad too, but I don't claim it on my
4
name.
kids, 5 grandkids, mad all the fucking time.
I'm old enough for grandkids,
Like-
but I don't
like-
have any.
Like when you walk back and find them painting the wall with the toothbrush with toothpaste on it. Yeah.
Seriously, but I'm grumpier because get off my lawn.
You guys are both lame as fuck. These are the worst.
I'm not
grumps
very
on Earth.
grumpy. I
No,
gotta get something's gotta rile me up first.
you look like a couple of gay men who just got out of marriages and found each other.
I mean,
No,
if
I'm
you're
sorry,
propositioning,
I just don't
Mr.
find
Flo,
other
I'm not.
heresy.
I'm saying that you guys are supposed to fight, but
that's what it sounds like.
you're gonna start propositioning each other if you bromance any longer.
Well, no, you already did. Why would we have to do it now?
Yeah, didn't you just set up a date?
Hey, Grump
you
Dad, does
set
it
up-
make you jealous when he hits on me?
Not
No,
really.
you're cool with that. You're just gonna let him do that right here in front of you.
Hey, he can do whatever he wants to you. I hope
You can
someone's
have him.
filming it and you guys make some cash.
Yeah, you
No,
can
no,
have them. I don't even like. I'll just take like I don't know, maybe like a 5%. I get 5% royalty. Just take
5%?
it.
5%?
Yeah. We're doing business here.
Do I get a
We're making
high
deals.
fee?
Yeah, I get 5%. Then yeah,
Told you guys were gay.
You go do whatever, and then
Hmm.
it's good. I'll send you over the contract later.
Neither of you are grumpy.
DocuSign.
Yeah, not at the moment.
Yeah, that was a total fail. You guys aren't grumpy enough at all.
You should have let me in there. I could have got them at each other.
Grumpy
Oh,
Dad
yeah.
almost went there when he was talking about the grandchildren. I thought he was going to lose it for a minute.
No.
but-
I heard that Rumpelstiltskin said that Darth Grumpy's mama was a monkey. Go.
I'm gonna put the
Just fabricate some
grumpy-
shit. Make
No.
it happen.
Put the non-grumpy
my
men
dad was
next
a
to each
spear
other.
chucking prairie native though.
Oh my God! I thought they were
What?
going to fucking.
Maybe we should have let
Why
Duck.
are we
try to
why are we
piss
yelling
him off.
about dead people?
Hey,
I
Mo,
feel like Duck might have been able to do it.
Pop off.
Duck, did you piss those guys
Wait.
off?
Flip off or pop off on people. I can do either.
can we
on
get
demand.
Duck
Piss
to
the
Mo's
piss them off. Did you get the two grumpies mad?
Oh, getting the two
He's
grumpies mad.
We seen Duck get
Give me
angry.
1
yet?
second. Okay.
I
so,
think Duck was trying to.
wait,
sorry.
CIA catchphrase. The laptop got out. This is going to be.
I
Great
meant the
for
grumpies,
the
not me.
Minutes you guys
That's
are
funny.
actually
I
on
can think
panel.
like the best
Okay.
part is like the lineup. It looks like the mug shots of CIA guys.
Yeah,
CIA
yeah,
guys
yeah.
were like, yeah, no, that ain't real, bro.
Like John.
It's their mugshots now.
Kiriakou, he's one of those guys.
Wasn't it 50 guys who signed? Yeah, that's.
Yeah.
We'll sign off on that.
Those will be their
All of them
mugshots
should lose
now.
their clearances.
We can hope. They
That's
did
a-
lose their
50.
clearances. That was awesome.
That's a fair
Oh, they did?
point.
Outstanding.
Yeah, that's a fair point.
What happened?
I
50
just wanna-
CIA agents did what?
I really like the fact that we have a Sherlock Holmes thing going on.
Yeah.
We've got
Yes.
2 grumpies. We've got a tomato cake. This is beautiful too.
The tomato cake
Yes.
is.
Flo looks
This is
grumpy.
This is the best birthday
I'm the grumpiest one up here.
a girl could ever ask.
Holy shit.
I apologize if I didn't
I
say
just-
happy birthday
I'm
already,
a
Sarah.
bit too
I-
nervous here to be.
That's
She
grumpy
okay.
tricked
now. I'm
the
sure something will
day.
come along to
She
lighten
tricked
up,
me
though.
the other day, damn it. She got 12 birthdays.
Double fisted grumpies.
Oh my goodness.
The mug of water.
Who is
I,
the
I
dominant
can.
grumpy?
I do want to answer Mo Rebuttal's thing from a little bit ago. By now, I can totally understand like listening to small businesses when it comes
could
to
have
like, maybe
Oh,
how
okay,
annoying it
got
is to fill out their taxes or whatever, and listening to people like Grid when it comes to like business advice.
Well, more than that,
I think Doug-
employees, healthcare.
Well, sure. I think
there's a
Doug was right in
long
his thing,
list
like
of things you have to go through.
the domain
Permits.
knowledge is relevant,
Benefits.
right? So like it's
Benefits
perfectly
are
fine to like talk to
filling
Grid
out
about
the
how
taxes.
it's perfectly
Never mind
fine to talk
paying
to Grid
them,
about
just
how
filling out
Why
the
are you
taxes.
talking
You're
over
right.
each
it's
other?
perfectly fine to
Jesus
talk to Grid about like
God.
how annoying it is to fill out taxes, and then like maybe discuss what's a more efficient way to implement a tax system, which is a DBCFT, by the way. But like, I'm not going to trust. I don't intrinsically trust small business owners on like general macroeconomics. Like, I'm not going to say, oh, the small
I
business
dig it.
owner says we should go back to the fucking gold standard. Therefore,
All right. I dig it.
A lot of people don't trust non-elected politicians that have no
businesses-
interest in making
business
business
owners
are
decisions.
allowed
So
to-
there's on
business
opposite
owners
sides.
are
now.
allowed to
Large
do
businesses
that.
have entire compliance departments, right? There's industries built around filling out forms. So you minimize it, but it's a huge inefficiency economically.
Well, yeah, and that's
Right.
why
And
large businesses are okay with a lot of these regulations, right? Because if it creates a
Yes.
monopoly, they're allowed
Because
to
the-
expand and grow,
Okay.
and it makes it harder for the lower, smaller businesses to actually rise up and challenge them. We see this with all kind of companies. We've seen this
Yeah, I don't really
time and time
disagree.
again. So,
More regulation,
Yeah.
it just makes it harder for the smaller business because
And that's why
exactly what
I'm definitely
Grumpy
proposing
Mo.
getting rid
We
of
got
it.
more grumps going on. Fully endorse it.
It's called a
I'm
barrier to
grumpy. There's
entry.
so much
Yeah,
regulation.
points
I'm
of
sick and
unions
tired
as
of it.
well to make it
This is
much
bullshit.
more
Okay, I'm an abundance liberal. Like I'm all for making the state more efficient and making markets more competitive.
Right.
I
you
just-
guys make good arguments, but whenever you guys get in power, or at least your side that you're arguing for gets in power, they never actually do that, right? So what we're seeing right now is not DOGE doing what you're saying. We're seeing them go after things in a partisan way to try and reshape things. They're not
What have they
actually
gone
going
after in a partisan
inefficiency.
way? Can you give me some examples?
I mean, you have to assume that that's correct. Just yeah,
Yeah,
sure.
well, let's just
I'm-
grant,
I'm
let's just
correct.
grant
It was
that's
a
correct.
claim.
But I just want to hear his examples. Just let's grant that's correct. They're doing it. What's
He
Anything
made a
DEI.
claim, so something.
Gentlemen, there has been a request from the chat.
Okay, but I got to do it the bluegrass style.
Who
How
would
are you
like,
gonna-
who would,
so no
who would
drums?
like, who would like to lead?
Oh.
Happy birthday to you.
To you.
Happy birthday.
Happy
to
birthday
you.
to you.
Happy birthday to Sarah the Grumpy Tomato.
Happy
Happy birthday to you. That was really
Who's
rough.
going to
That
cover
was really
the
bad.
Marilyn Monroe version? Happy birthday.
That one. Happy birthday, Mr. President.
Wait, this isn't being recorded, right?
Hold on, who was singing
You're
with
Sarah
me?
the Grumpy
Who was
Tomato
the
now.
absolute Chad that was singing with me? Who was that? Which one of you? Come on
I don't
now.
know. You were all sounding
doing
like
the
a
Marilyn
bunch of
Monroe
dying
version?
cats.
Yeah, the Marilyn Monroe version. Who was that?
Oh, that was me.
You go, girl.
I
I
was,
hear you.
I was well.
Flex.
It was actually a dying cat.
Mr. President.
Mr. President. And K2 keep on trucking says Joe Lot Lizard would go in the bunk in sleeper for whatever that means. And Kissy Cat saying the same thing I was thinking. That was terrible. It
damn
really
fun,
was.
though.
How
But
dare
it's
you.
because StreamYard.
We didn't have time to rehearse.
StreamYard has
Did.
a delay, so what you're hearing
hard.
and then what it's actually
But the
got a
delay
little-
is different for every single person on panel, and that's why we talk over each other when we don't realize we're doing it, and that's why some of it's just pull through because somebody's going to give up eventually.
So I would like to engage though with Effigy just for that last question a little bit more. So can you give me some examples that I can go like look up that kind of basically proves that they're doing it in a bipartisan way to benefit them or be shady?
He said partisan, not bipartisan.
Oh, okay, partisan way.
DEI programs, right?
What about
Would you say that the right is attacking DEI programs simply because they are left-wing ideas?
No, I would
That's
say they're
built on that
attacking them because they're toxic.
Don't you think they've made an economic argument against saying like, well, we're not getting the best in places because DEI is putting people who shouldn't be allowed to be in these positions?
So
it is an economic argument they're making, and it is part
No,
of the problem.
you're making a
doing.
I'm sorry, Mo. It's yours, man. But
No, go ahead, go engage with it. I'm
it's built on a really like a really wobbly step ladder. If I could make that as an assertion, you're saying that people who shouldn't be in those places versus that are the best qualified. It's about meritocracy versus, hey, do the exact opposite of what Martin Luther King said. You know, the content of your character, the quality of what you're doing. No, it's because of your skin color. That's why you got the job. That puts
No, that's kind of
everybody
initiatives are saying that what you're
that
saying
puts-
is
that
not
makes
the case.
everybody, and it's bad for the entire environment because that makes everybody who isn't straight white male, I guess, a suspect of being DEI. So it undermines them.
So, well, actually, I would even go a little further than that. Let's say I just grant you, okay, yeah, that's a partisan thing he's going after, right? DI left likes it, right doesn't, right? let's just say I grant you that. So isn't that what every administration does when they get in and they want to like start cutting things? They go after the things they don't like. When the Democrats get in and they start cutting things that they don't like from Republicans, are you gonna?
You can argue that to an extent, but you cannot say that it is a historical precedent for people to gut the government based on what previous presidents did.
To be fair, though, are you personally going to wave the banner when it comes down to the Democrats and they start cutting things in a partisan way? Are you going to be there day one and say this is bullshit?
Are Democrats known for getting into power and gutting or cutting lots of things? Is that what they're known for? Do they do that? I thought y'all's biggest critique of Democrats is that they didn't do that. So it seems like a weird hypothetical
goes after it. That's not what I said. Each party goes, and I'm just saying each party goes after the things they don't like. That's why they get voted. Right?
I would say that one party likes to go after the other, and the other party likes to put in things that are for their own ideas. Like the Democrats are not known for getting into government and like going like we have to excise every right wing idea from the government. That's a kind of y'all thing.
You just listed one or two.
Well, look. So the difference would be in the process and procedure. So I'm not a super big DOGE debater dude. Like I defer to Rinrold usually, who was here earlier. But the claim that he would make, and I think it's probably true, but I haven't done a lot of the reading myself, is that when Democrats like cut things they don't like, usually they're going through Congress to cut these things. They write up a bill and do that or whatever. And it seems like DOGE is just doing a lot of these things through the executive branch with questionable legal authority, which is why we've seen these lawsuits, some of which DOGE has.
You haven't
not really lost yet, but has
into what they're actually cutting. They're cutting things that are under the power of the executive branch, largely.
Well, again, I haven't done a lot of reading on this myself. But my understanding is, there's already been lawsuits about, questioning whether they do really have the authority.
Dude, I can bring up a lawsuit on you for wearing that dopey shirt. That doesn't make it valid.
Right, but there's also already been temporary restraining orders and other stay. That's why they've had to keep some
really
of these people.
quickly.
They've had to rehire people already because of
the point of the lawsuit is that they took an agency whose entire point was to upgrade technology, and then they're turning it into a budgeting, cost cutting thing.
That is one of them.
That they're trying to create an agency without actually doing what you have to do to create an agency, which is pass a fucking law.
Sir, no, sir, that's not true. The Department of Education
kind of irrelevant because the president can just fire people, and
most of your administrative agencies were created through executive orders. So the executive branch has almost full control over them unless they've been compartmentalized. Compartmentalized by Congress through action.
You got it. You good?
Okay, so does anyone here disagree with the notion?
I may be wrong on that. I'll check.
Does anyone here disagree with the notion that we need regulation on markets to prevent, things like some of the issues with capitalism spiraling out of control, such as hegemony and monopolies and stuff like that?
I do.
Can we clarify something? How many people on panel are
businesses? They can't become monopolies. It's when businesses and the government get tied together that monopolies get created.
I don't think that's always
How many people are communists here?
Seems
about.
I have a story about being a communist, but I'm not actually a communist.
I want to hear what Nanfa was going to say.
Again, I'm an abundance neoliberal dog. Okay, so I don't entirely disagree with you that it can't happen, but it does seem to be it entirely seems plausible to me that there are cases where a company could exercise monopoly power, not because of the government, but just because they, have so much market power. I think even to an extent, Amazon might fit that. And I also think that, even without strict monopoly, there's obviously cases of monopsony where a few companies are in control of things.
So my point is though, is it just Darth Grumpy Dad who thinks that we need zero regulations?
I
didn't hear him say that.
It's not that I believe we need zero regulations. I believe we need more detachment from the government and our businesses. They shouldn't interact at the level they do. They're
so then you're anti-Trump, right? Because Trump is merging the private interests and the state.
Why are you telling him what he's thinking? Stop that.
Well, it doesn't make sense any other way because
you're just interpreting what you hear in a way you find most beneficial.
the most visceral manifestation of that possible is a
You're
rich.
trying to create a false dichotomy here. That
Is
if
a
you
rich
believe
person-
this, you must believe that. If you don't believe this, you have to believe that. And that's just fallacious thought.
Well, this is why I brought up the Walmart CEO becoming president for the same reasons. We have a rich person also working with someone who does own businesses to undermine regulations in the government, which prevent things like corporations that can take over stuff. Now, I'll agree with you. Some of these regulations are great, but then that becomes a question of how we implement these regulations and who they target rather than necessarily not having regulations.
The federal government has two jobs: to protect our borders and protect my civil liberties. Everything else you're talking about is done at the state level. It starts at city, county, state.
Supposed to be.
You go back, yeah, supposed to be. You go back and you look. Like earlier, somebody was talking about getting LLCs. You could get them for $500. Then, well, that's great. Now, what business are you doing? Are you trying to be a carpenter? Right? Because now you need certifications to be a carpenter. Are you going to do work on somebody's house? Now you need to go down to the city hall and get a permit to work. If you own your house, you want to replace the door. In some municipalities, you have to go down and pay for a permit, a work permit, to change the door on your house. So yes, I believe there are far too many regulations on our society. So business owners should not have to go through all this stuff. If you want to hang a shingle and start making
what about homeowners?
Bookends.
Not just business owners, homeowners. A homeowner. I had a damaged roof. A roof was damaged in a storm. After a whole bunch of frou-frou, I had to replace my roof, right? The insurance wouldn't pay for it, so I ended up in a position where I was fixing to have to write a pretty hefty check. I go up, try to get the permit to do the roof. There's nobody at the office. I call the guy from the office. He's like, I'll be in tomorrow. I miss him. I miss him again. I miss him a fourth time. The guys show up, put my roof on. And then they call me up and go, hey, why didn't you get a permit for that? You weren't there.
You had a contractor that didn't pull the permit? Wait, Squatch, you had a contractor that was doing the work that they didn't pull the permit? Is that normal there?
I went to go pull the permit myself before I ever started it. 3 months later, I still haven't tracked down the guy that I'm supposed to give money to get the permit. Neither has